Valley. City News Time, 9 o'clock.
Number 1 for local news in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Friday, May 13th. Good morning. I'm Andrew Boyle. Right now in Ottawa, 19 degrees, 21 in Smiths Falls. Here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. All the party leaders in the provincial election hit the trail running this morning, this hour, getting their messages out. This weekend will likely involve a little prep time. The leaders' debate is scheduled for Monday. Here's City News reporter Kevin Meisner.
First up will be Liberal leader Stephen Del Duca. He has an announcement planned in Toronto about the cost of living. Then at 9:30 in Chatham, Kent, NDP leader Andrea Horwath will be talking about helping to keep seniors in their homes longer. Also at 9:30, Progressive Conservative leader Doug Ford will be in Windsor for an announcement. No details on what he plans to discuss just yet. And Green Party leader Mike Schreiner will be at his home base of Guelph all day today. And he's going to be talking at 9:30 this morning to talk about what he terms ending legislated poverty. As of Monday evening, all four leaders are going to be getting ready to take part in the televised debate. It runs from 6:30 to 8 p.m. again on Monday evening. At Queen's Park, Kevin Meisner, City News.
City News Time, 9:01. And now your forecast with meteorologist Jill Taylor.
Well, another hot day for us, likely another record high, too. The high 32 degrees, feeling like 35 with the humidity. The record for a May the 13th is 28.2. Sun and clouds, southwest wind. Tonight, mainly clear and 16. And for the weekend, likely get into some scattered showers and thunderstorms, and will start to cool down. For today, the high 32.
And right now, it's 19 degrees in Ottawa, 21 degrees in Smiths Falls. Perfect weather all week has certainly helped the tulips bloom in an array of colors right across from Dow's Lake in Commissioners Park. The annual Tulip Festival is back this year with in-person activities. The opening ceremony is going to be held tomorrow morning at 11 and will include Princess Margriet of the Netherlands. She was born in the Civic Hospital in 1940 after her family had fled to Canada to escape the Nazi occupation. The princess will also help plant some tulip bulbs at Stornoway. That was her temporary home back in 1940. The search is on for a missing autistic 17-year-old last seen in the Britannia area. Now, we do have his picture up at ottawa.citynews.ca. Matthew Fernandez is 5 feet 7 inches tall. He has a slim build. He was last seen wearing an army-style green hoodie, orange swim trunks, and flip-flops. He was also carrying a blue towel with a purple wolf logo, dark jeans, and navy shoes. Anyone who knows where he is or thinks they spot him is asked to contact Ottawa Police. City News Time, 9:03. The Vatican has released more detail on the Pope's summer visit to Canada following last month's historic residential school apology.
Edmonton, Quebec City, and Iqaluit will act as bases for the trip from July 24th to the 29th. Pope Francis made the commitment to visit Canada after his public apology in April for the Catholic Church's deplorable conduct in residential schools. He met for several days with First Nations, Inuit, and Métis groups.
The next step is for the Holy Father to apologize to our family at their home. We seek to hear his words. They also seek their words of apology at home.
The Pope's mobility issues play a factor in where he goes. The Canadian Conference of Catholic Bishops says the three cities were chosen based on the length of the trip, the vast size of Canada, and the health of the 85-year-old. Charlene Close, City News.
And I'm Andrew Boyle for News Anytime. Follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
He's got the news and the views.
He's got views on the news.
It's the Rob Snow Show on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Good morning, Ottawa, and welcome to the Rob Snow Show. Rob is off. He'll be back Monday morning, never fear. Rob will make his triumphant return Monday morning. 9 o'clock, he'll be back. In the meantime, on this beautiful Friday, my goodness, beautiful Friday, Derek Fage here, host of Daytime Ottawa on Rogers TV, filling in for Rob. What a great few days we've had so far. Today continues. Some great topics for you on today's show. Let's just start off with a moment of silence for Alex, who's here for David today. Alex had it looked like a triumphant night ahead for him last night. It was actually, you're watching the game last night. It was really, it really mirrored the last game, right? If you remember the last game, it was like almost a mirror image of the previous 4-3 win by the Leafs, but this time the Bolts came out on top. You had the 2-0 hole for Toronto, and then they score 3 in a row, take the lead. Tampa Bay ties it up and go on to win in overtime this time. Whereas in Game 5, we saw Toronto score the winner just over midway through the third period. I just want to check in with Alex for a moment. Alex, are you okay? As a Toronto fan, are you all right over there?
I'm doing okay. We'll see how tomorrow goes. I think that'll really will depend on how I feel. But, I'm optimistic.
Alex, at least you have a day of recovery. Let me just say that. You've got a day of if the loss happens tomorrow, you can look at it two ways. You've got a day of recovery if there is a loss on the Sunday before you come back to work on the Monday, or you have a day of celebration. So Sunday is going to be a good day either way for Leafs fans. You've got the recovery day or you've got the celebration day. I'm not going to lie, not a Leafs supporter. I'm not one of those guys, well, I don't care any Canadian team. I am in that. I'm so sorry. I apologize to our listeners who are Leafs fans. I just can't bring myself. You have to understand the history as a Sens fan, what the Leafs did to us during our best years, when we put together our best teams. Those Leafs teams just kept destroying us breaking our hearts in the playoffs. So if you're wondering, Derek, you're going to cheer for the Leafs because they're a Canadian team and a Canadian team hasn't won in so many years, not going to happen. Calgary, I'm there for you. Edmonton, I'm there for you. But just can't do it. Can't do it. By the way, we are going to talk a little NHL playoffs later on in the show. Kyle Bukauskas, rinkside host for Sportsnet, going to be joining us later on in the show. So we'll talk to Kyle about that game last night. We'll also talk about big win last night for the Oilers. Look at this conference right now, right? So you got Game 7 Leafs. You've got now a Game 7 Oilers versus LA. You got Bruins versus Carolina also going to a Game 7. I mean, there's nothing more exciting than Game 7 in the NHL playoffs. Of course, you can catch it on Sportsnet. All right, what else is going on, Derek? What else are we going to talk about today? Construction industry strikes. That's what we're going to talk about. My goodness. We'll look at construction industry strikes and how it's really put a focus on inflation, right? And how inflation impacts collective bargaining and workers. And we're seeing, 15,000 residential laborers walked off the job last week, along with another 6,000 commercial operating engineers. This week, another 15,000 commercial, industrial, and institutional carpenters went on strike, as did around 7,000 residential and commercial drywall workers. And in the meantime, everybody's talking about building more houses. And we've got strikes, that are happening and looming over our heads right now. Look at some of the promises, 1.5 million homes to be built. We're going to talk about some of the promises, by the way, okay, on today's show. There's some big money being thrown around, big promises being thrown around, as we do each and every Friday on the Rob Snow Show. We have the Queen's Park in review. Steve Clark, PC candidate for Leeds Grenville, Thousand Islands, and Rideau Lakes will be joining us. John Fraser, Liberal candidate for Ottawa South. And then John Van Thoff, NDP candidate for Temiskaming Cochrane, joining us. So I'm going to go through some of these promises with those candidates. PCs. Let me just throw out a couple for you. This is where we're talking, tens of billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars being thrown around. So the PCs are planning on spending almost $160 billion over 10 years for highways, transit, and hospitals. $20 billion promised this year alone. They're offering some tax breaks within that for low-income workers and seniors. Providing $4 billion to support high-speed internet access by the end of 2025. So there's some of the billions being offered there. And not just money. Then you got the NDP. They're saying, you know what? We're going to hire 10,000 personal support workers. We're going to hire 30,000 nurses and expediting the recognition of the credentials of 15,000 internationally trained nurses. And it goes on. They're going to hire 20,000 teachers and education workers. They're going to cap class sizes for grade 4 through grade 8, they say, at 24 students. So there's some numbers for you there. You head over to the Liberals and, they say, you're capping at 24. We're going to cap it at 20 for all elementary and school students. And then speaking of billions, the Liberals say they're going to invest $10 billion to build and repair schools across the province. They say that plan will be fully funded by canceling Highway 413. So they're saying they're estimating the cost of Highway 413 is about $10 billion, although we don't have the costing of that quite yet. They're not looking at hiring as many teachers as the NDP in the 20,000 range. They're promising to hire 10,000 more teachers. And as I said, cap those class sizes at 20. Speaking of schooling, they say they would reinstate an optional grade 13 as well. It's part of their platform, the Liberals. Some more numbers, hiring 100,000 healthcare workers, training 3,000 new mental health addiction staff. And that's not the end of it, right? The announcements will keep coming on a daily basis. We're going to have announcements. You just heard in our city news report there. Stephen Del Duca is making an announcement like right now. He should be making an announcement like any minute if it hasn't happened already. Well, we'll find out what that announcement is by the time we do the Queen's Park review. Maybe we can add the new announcements into the conversation with our candidates. So Stephen Del Duca making an announcement on the cost of living in Scarborough. It's supposed to be around 9 a.m. We'll keep an eye on that. Doug Ford will make an announcement about getting it done. That's all. That's the description. Getting it done. Big announcement on getting it done in Windsor at 9:30 a.m. Again, we'll keep an eye on that. And Andrea Horvath, to announce a plan to help seniors stay in their homes longer. She'll be in Chatham, Kent, at 9:30 a.m. So, yeah, some other announcements happening this morning. As I said, we'll keep an eye on that. Mayor Jim Watson joining us on the show today. We're going to do a local issues roundup with Mayor Watson. Ask him about, because right before we speak to him, we're going to be speaking to the president of the Ottawa and District Labor Council about all of these strikes, those numbers I just mentioned to you. Sean Mckinney will be joining us. So coming out of that, we'll talk to Mayor Jim Watson and get his opinion on this local construction strike, right? Because it'll impact municipal bills. Get his thoughts on the Ottawa Hospital fundraising announcement. If you missed that yesterday, we talked about that. Got a lot of calls, by the way, in the Talkback Hour, which, of course, we're doing again today. The Talkback Hour happens each and every day here on the Rob Snow Show from 10 to 11. We open the lines to you. It's your opportunity to share your opinion. And the great thing about Fridays is it's the Friday free-for-all. Talk about it. Almost anything goes. Okay? You're going to call Alex after the 10 o'clock news at 613-750-1310. You're going to give him a call, and you're going to say, Alex, this is what I want to talk about. And maybe there's something, I'll throw out a couple of topics. I'll bring some up in just a moment, but I'm going to throw out a couple of topics. It doesn't necessarily have to be topics that we've talked about on the show, that you've heard in the news. Maybe there's something, maybe you want to make the news. I don't know. Maybe you've got some inside information for us that we haven't talked about yet on this show this week. Again, that's the Talkback Hour. 10 to 11, 613-750-1310. You call us after the 10 o'clock news. So yesterday we got a lot of traction. As I said, we're going to talk to Mayor Watson about this. The Ottawa Hospital has asked the City of Ottawa to contribute $150 million toward the construction of its new civic campus at Dow's Lake. It's a lot of money. And don't forget, right? And so if you want to talk about this, I mean, as I said, yesterday our lines blew up talking about this. So I'm going to bring the question back to you again. You know, if this is something you want to talk about, something you're still passionate about after the last 24 hours, you're still like, geez, I didn't get into Derek yesterday. I didn't get into the Rob Snow show. I want to talk about it. Many city councillors say it would be unfair for local residents to foot the bill. You know, they say this is the province's responsibility. By the way, so I'll break it down for you again, just to give you, you know, a little idea of what we're talking about here. It's a $2.8 billion project, which I think is going to go up. It always happens that way, right? But that's the estimate. The Ontario government covering $2.1 billion, but requires the Ottawa community to cover $700 million. You're like, wait a minute, Derek, I thought we were covering $150 million. Well, okay, there is different parts to this. The campaign to create tomorrow, right, announced by Executive Chair of the campaign, Roger Greenberg, talked about the campaign to create tomorrow, and the goal is raising $500 million. We might have to raise that goal to $650 million, right, to make up for that $150. All right. So then, okay, so let's say you got the $500 million, so then you have the ask of $150 million from the city, and then they're expecting $50 million to be covered by hospital revenue. So we can talk about that, and I want to talk a little bit about what we talked about with Randall Denley yesterday, if you'd like to talk about it. He has a great article in the Ottawa Citizen just talking about he calls it a dismal situation for Ottawa voters looking for a fresh start at City Hall after so many years of Jim Watson as mayor. He has a question on, you know, it doesn't seem to be a very attractive position for people. We've got two people so far, Bob Chiarelli and City Councillor Catherine McKinney. So the question will be, is there anybody out there that you'd like to see run for mayor of Ottawa? All right, so there's some of the topics. Coming up after the break, you know, it's become my favorite segment on the Rob Snow Show. Tom Korski, managing editor of Blacklock's Reporter, will be joining us on the show. We got lots to talk about with him. Again, this is Derek Fage filling in for Rob Snow right here on City News.
And here are the rest of your Ottawa 67.
Sean Callahan from behind his own net. Moskowitz, there's a giveaway. Here's Byers, shot right on. Mrazek has it.
Ottawa has, for the most part, carried the play in the last 3 or 4 games here, and this is when Barrie's got their chances on poor puck management, puck decisions right there. Ill-advised pass, not a good pass, a turnover, creates the first scoring chance and shot on net for the Barrie Colts in this game. This is what Ottawa's got to do better of tonight, is making sure that their puck management is good. They're crisp and they're solid when they have it.
That's the first action. Scores! The Barrie Colts draw first blood. It's Greg Such. Smith out there now for Ottawa. He's going to head in front of the net. Oh, dig it away, scores! Dalton Smith tapped in front of the net. We are tied at 1. Back to the point. Callahan shot's blocked. And here comes McDonald with a head of steam. Shot scores! McDonald with the long shot. And the Barrie Colts take a 2-1 lead. Back to the point. CC walks. Shot. Scores! Cody Ceci.
It might have been deflected right away, right when he took the shot. Something changed on the way to the net.
It dipped as it got close to the net. I noticed that. And good cycling. Gus does a great job of being patient with the puck, bringing 2 guys to him.
and he'll win it back to the point. Ceci. Here's Prince, traffic in front, down low. Trying to get scores! With 24.1 seconds to go. Be an icing. Oh, waved off at the last second. Bahena trying to track it down. Rolls deep into the Ottawa zone. Ceci to meet him. Trying to center it, bouncing puck in the crease. Scores! With 8.7 to go. Mark Scheifele ties it at 3. Force McNeil to hustle back. Niederberger steers it away. Gustus right on it. Scores! Brad Gustafson from the boards. The Ottawa 67s advance to the Eastern Conference Finals. The little man comes up big for the Ottawa 67s.
He'll never score a bigger goal.
No, that's for sure.
The Rob Snow Show returns
on Rogers TV and City News 101.1 FM
and 1310 AM.
Welcome back to the Rob Snow Show. Derek Fage here filling in. Oh boy, I'm just going to dive right in because, as I said, this isn't just blowing smoke because he's my next guest. It really has become, I think, my favorite segment on the Rob Snow Show. Tom Korski, managing editor of Blacklock's Reporter, joins us on the show. Tom, how are you this morning?
I'm well. Thank you very much, Derek.
Firm, fair, and fun. That's how they describe Rob. I would say that's an apt description for yourself as well, Tom.
I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed right now.
Don't be embarrassed, Tom. It's true. It's true. Let me toot your horn here, okay? Let's dive right in. This is, I love the topics you send to us because you really dig deep into a lot of these stories. And the first story is about the Emergencies Act. And in one of your articles, it's, police never asked Cabinet to invoke the Emergencies Act. This is what the RCMP has said. You've got to break this down for us, Tom.
A big problem. Public Safety Minister Marco Mendicino, Derek, had said, I invoked the Emergencies Act, declared a national emergency on Wellington Street in Ottawa because the police told me to. It was their advice. He said that over and over. We counted 11 times. Mendicino says this when there's a stenographer in the room, says it was on the advice of police. Problem. Mendicino is trying to establish this was not a political hit job, but all the evidence suggests it was a political hit job. The commissioner of the RCMP, Brenda Luckie, goes to committee and was asked by an experienced police officer, Vern White, you remember, former chief, now senator, and the story goes to pieces. Commissioner Luckie says, no, we don't give it. What? He said, what?
Unbelievable.
It was unbelievable, to which Senator White says, okay, so you're the national police force responsible for national emergencies. It wasn't your advice. Any other police, maybe? No, I'm drawing a blank, said Commissioner Luckie. Mendicino has a lot to answer for, Derek.
Yeah, and you break it down so well because Mendicino also told the Commons, and even by date, we are listening to law enforcement, February 21st. According to law enforcement, we still need the Emergencies Act, February 21st. I mean, it just goes on and sheds more light. So on that, the bank freeze as well is a big part of this story because the Department of Finance disclosed it never verified whether all account freezes under a Freedom Convoy order were justified. Talk to us about this one, Tom.
Derek, literally hundreds of accounts were frozen.
Yeah.
And millions of dollars. The official estimate is almost $8 million. The Credit Union Association testifies in committee. They say, no. It was much worse than that. They had millions withdrawn by depositors who had nothing to do with the Freedom Convoy, who learned for the first time turning on the radio that the federal cabinet can freeze my account anytime they feel like it. And so the question becomes, who was checking on this?
Right.
Who made sure there were no mistakes? The Bankers Association said, look, if your account was frozen, you're getting tagged for life. Trust me, the big machine never forgets that you get a little black star in your file. It will follow you for life, my friend. Who was verifying there were no mistakes made? Everything was on the level, to which the Department of Finance says, they pull a Brenda Luckie. They say, no, we never checked. That was up to the Bank banks. They're a great bunch of guys. They act in good faith, quote unquote, the Finance Committee was told.
Yeah, and bankers and credit union managers said they relied on RCMP blacklists, right, to freeze the account. However, in the story, bank executives acknowledged acting on their own to mark accounts of depositors, right?
Eric, do you know how bad this got? There was a Crown Bank, it's called Farm Credit Canada, headquartered in Regina, and it implies, they finance farm loans. We have seen internal memos where they deliberately instructed their staff to report eavesdropped conversations with clients. So if there was a couple of guys sitting there in the office saying, I like the cut of the jib of those Freedom Convoy boys, the name is going on a list. The only reason they didn't compile a blacklist is because they ran out of time before Cabinet suspended the emergency order. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it is. It's incredible. Well, if we haven't upset our listeners enough, this next story might just do it. The Public Health Agency has cited for pandemic mismanagement paid 5-figure bonuses to executives last year. This is what records show. Tom, to give us some more details on this one.
Good job, Bob. They did a great job. Everyone remembers that, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the Public Health Agency has been, they ran the formula. This is unbelievable. They like the bonuses. Let's put it this way. How many public health agency executives got fired for mismanaging the mask warehouse? Zero. How many public health agency executives got a bonus for mismanaging the mask warehouse? 88%. If you showed up for work and didn't eat glue, you got a bonus. How much was the bonus? It was the equivalent of about $18,000 for good job, Bob, because they really got it done. It was an incredible success story. It's frankly unbelievable. Derek, there have been MPs who have said, serious people, the mismanagement by that agency almost bordered on criminal liability. There were nursing home staff who died because they couldn't get masks because the big brain at the Public Health Agency forgot to stock them. But they didn't forget to collect the bonus. 88% got a big fat bonus.
We're speaking, by the way, with Tom Korski, managing editor of Blacklock's Reporter. I'm going to get the evil eye because I'm going to ask another question, but I just have to get to this one before we go to a break and to our news. Government profiting from inflation. Parliament, it says, must closely watch federal departments profiting from fees due to inflation, Tom.
Yeah, 5 years ago, no one paid attention. Cabinet passed a bill.
Yeah.
It says every time inflation goes up, the fees that are collected by government departments and agencies can go up. So we're talking now 7%. They don't have to report to Parliament. There are actually departments profiting from millions of dollars from inflation. I'm sorry, did you have questions about that?
I think you just answered any question that I could possibly ask, Tom. I mean, this is why I say to listeners, it really has become my favorite segment on the show because there doesn't seem to be any other agency, journalism, it doesn't matter what, blog, you can call it whatever you want, that it goes so in depth to find some of these stories. You do such a great job, Tom. Really appreciate
it. You're getting a bonus, man. I mean a big one.
I appreciate it, Tom. Thanks so much for joining us as usual each and every Friday.
Thank you, Derek.
All right, take care. That's Tom Korski, managing editor of Blacklock's Reporter. And I can't stress enough for you to subscribe. Head over there. Blacklocks.ca is the place to go. Just some fantastic in-depth reporting. I'm Derek Fage, filling in for Rob Snow. You're watching on Rogers TV and listening on City News.
In Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Friday, May 13th. Good morning. I'm Andrew Boyle. Right now in Ottawa, 23 degrees. It's 24 in Smith Falls, and here's what's making news this hour. On the election trail, Liberal leader Stephen Del Duca is in the GTA talking about bringing back rent control for all buildings. Also asked about Truth and Reconciliation Day. It was not a stat last September, the inaugural. He says it will be with him as Premier this coming September. PC leader Doug Ford is in Windsor. NDP leader Andrea Horwath is in Chatham, Kent, and Stratford. The Green Party leader Mike Schreiner has multiple events around his home riding in Guelph. The search is on for a missing autistic 17-year-old last seen in the Britannia area. Matthew Fernandez is 5'7" with a thin build. Now, more on this story and Matthew's picture at ottawa.citynews.ca. If you think you've spotted him, you're asked to contact Ottawa Police. The annual Tulip Festival is on. Starting today, the official opening ceremony will be tomorrow morning at 11 and include Princess Margriet of the Netherlands. She was born at the Civic Hospital in 1940. Her family fled to Canada to escape the Nazi occupation. City News Time, 9:32. I'm Andrew Boyle for News Anytime. Follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
He's a pillar of community opinion.
The Rob Snow Show returns
on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM
and 1310 AM.
Oh, welcome back to the Rob Snow Show. Derek Fage here from Rogers TV, filling in for Rob. I shared the numbers off the top, but I'm going to share them again, just in case you're just joining us now, okay? Around 15,000 residential laborers walked off the job last week, alongside another 6,000 commercial operating engineers. This week, another 15,000 commercial, industrial, and institutional carpenters went on strike, as did around 7,000 residential and commercial drywall workers. This has an incredible impact. If you've looked around the city of Ottawa and you've seen a lack of construction going on, although those sites are still there, but there's no people there, now you know why. Here to talk to us more about the ongoing strikes and if we're going to see, more strikes continuing, I'm joined by Sean Mckinney, president of the Ottawa and District Labor Council. Sean, welcome. Great to have you here.
Thank you.
Sean, have you ever seen these kinds of numbers before?
Well, it's been 35 to 40 years since we've had a strike in the ICI sector in respect to any of the trades, the carpenters, and all of them. So it's been a long time.
Yeah, no kidding. Do you imagine this is likely going to continue to grow, the number of striking workers in different parts of the construction industry?
I hope not. I think the message is being heard. Look, I think the important piece here is that the unions and the employer thought they had hammered out a deal. when the unions, in most of the cases, brought it to the membership, the members said, you know what, thanks for the work that you've done on this, but we're not happy with this. We think that given everything that's happened over the last number of years in respect to the pandemic, in respect to the fact that we were designated as essential workers, we fill up our cars like everybody else, and it's costing us twice as much. We're going to the grocery stores to get food for our families, and it's costing us a lot as well. So we want more, and that's what the message is that's being sent to the employer is.
So, Sean, it's fair to say then money is at the heart of the dispute, right?
Yeah, it's everything. It really is.
Okay.
And again.
So, what does that encompass outside of money? If it's everything. You said so. I said, oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought I understand where you're coming from now. I asked if money was the heart of the dispute. You said it's everything. I thought you meant everything, other things on top of that as well.
Yeah, all good.
Gotcha.
Good.
Okay. So it is everything. So you're looking for what I imagine a fair wage increase. Right.
Well, the membership is right. So the membership is sending the union back to meet with the employer to negotiate a more of a fair wage.
So let's talk about the effect. As I said, people. There's construction projects across the city. They have come to a standstill. What does this mean for all of these projects that are going on right now?
Well, they've not all come to a standstill. I mean, that process is starting, and it generally takes a while for all that to occur. As you can imagine, it's like everything else. I mean, the electricians did settle, so they aren't on strike. But if they don't have buildings or walls up to run wires, then there's nothing for them to do. At the same time, the operating engineers are out. They do a heck of a lot of work in respect to the pouring of concrete and other things, hoisting. So if they're not working, little by little, gradually, those workplaces will shut down. Because none of the trades, even if they're not on strike, there's no work. Every trade needs each other in order to successfully complete the project.
Yeah, I guess for a lot of listeners, perhaps we don't realize what the process is like and how much work goes into just organizing each trade to come into a specific, whether it's residential, commercial, it doesn't matter. There's a lot of organization that has to happen for any build, right, Sean?
Yeah, there is. There's no question, and for the listeners, for the most part, the residential has not been impacted in this city. It's primarily the ICI, so the heavy buildings, our library, and other big projects of the cities. The LRT. Eventually, there's still work going on there now, but eventually it will come to a halt if this continues. And the hope is that this won't continue. The hope is that people will get back to the table and that they will hammer out a deal so that those projects can finish up and the women and men of the trades can get back to work and everybody happy.
Are there any meetings set up? As you explained, these are all different unions, right? Is there any progress as far as even sitting down at the table? Is anybody having meetings at the moment?
So I can't speak specifically to specific trades. In some instances, there are, and in other incidents, they're not taking place. I know that the unions are saying to the employer, look, let's get back to the table. And my understanding from some of the employer groups that they want a chance to go over some of the numbers, to think about it, to strategize, and then they'll have a meeting with the unions, whatever that union might be.
Just a reminder to everybody, we're speaking to Sean Mckinney. He is the president of the Ottawa and District Labour Council. Let's talk about the role of the Ottawa and District Labour Council. Just explain, what your role is, just on an ongoing basis, and then maybe we can talk about perhaps your role in a situation like this. But on an ongoing basis, Sean, what is the role of the Labour Council?
Labour Council has been in Ottawa since 1872. So the Labour Council is a body that union locals affiliate to. So Currently, we have approximately 90 different union locals affiliated to the Labor Council, and that is right across the board. So a number of OPSU locals, those that are working in healthcare, a number of CUPE locals, United Food Commercial Workers, steel workers, the construction trades as well. So a number of those union locals are affiliated to the Labor Council. We come together under one roof, so to speak, and talk about the issues of the day, talk about policy and legislation that is in the best interest of working people in the city. And we think we do some pretty good stuff. We have annual events like our Labor Day March and Picnic. We just came through at the end of April. We had our Day of Mourning ceremony that we hold each year on April 28th in memory of those 1,000-plus workers who die each and every day across the country at the workplace. So there's a number of things that the Labor Council does. I think it's a great organization. I think it does some pretty cool stuff in the city.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, Sean, what about your role in a situation like this? Is there a role to be played by the Ottawa District Labor Council?
Well, again, we'll take direction from those affiliates. So those that are affiliated to the Labor Council and are on strike, if they're looking for support on the picket line, then we'll certainly do that and let our delegates know that there's picket lines set up at Carlingwood or Parliament buildings, depending on where it might be, and encourage folks to show their support by stopping in at picket lines, speaking to the folks there, and that kind of thing. So yeah, if requested by the affiliate, there are things for the Labor Council to do.
Excellent. Sean, really appreciate you taking some time with us today. Thank you so much for joining us.
You're very welcome.
All right, take care. That's Sean Mckinney, President of the Ottawa and District Labor Council. It's going to be interesting to continue following this as Sean explained, money is everything. It really is, because you can understand where they're coming from, right? The unions are calling for a fair wage increase to reflect, this spiraling cost of living. We've all been talking about it, right? I mean, it's the number one issue in this particular election. It's the cost of living, where we often see other things sort of rise to the top. I mean, housing is part of that cost of living, of course, and you cannot blame unions who are spending more on fuel, and the costs of everything is going up, just like the rest of us looking for a wage increase. I mean, Mike York, the president of the Carpenters District Council of Ontario, said he can't recall ever seeing so many individual trades on strike at once. And so you're seeing a delay of construction, and not necessarily here in Ottawa, because as Sean just explained, you're not seeing it in residential, but as far as Ontario-wide, the strikes are delaying the construction of much needed detached homes, townhomes, condos, and some are speculating the delays could last months. Commercial construction workers are now on strike as well, so you're causing additional delays in the construction of hospitals, office towers, even holding up the refurbishment of Parliament Hill is all a part of that. So we'll keep an eye on this. There's no doubt, because as Sean explained, also said, because each trade bargains separately, work stoppages can create this sort of domino effect, right, in the industry, because everybody, all these trades are waiting on the next trade. And having worked on a renovation myself, a fairly major renovation, I understand that, right? Because as you do things, other trades have to wait for you to complete one job so that they can complete their job, and then the next trade comes in. We're going to get actually reaction from Mayor Jim Watson coming up about this, how it affects local construction, municipal builds, that kind of thing. And we got a lot of different things to talk to Mayor Watson about. We're going to be back with him after the break, talking that Ottawa Hospital fundraising, always on the docket, state of transit. What he would like to see happen with the Ottawa Senators, right? Is there going to be a sale? Are we going to have a new stadium? As part of the Talkback Hour, we wanted to talk about Randall Denley's article yesterday, saying that Ottawa's mayoralty contest is in desperate need of fresh faces. You know, we've got two people that we're talking about right now. Bob Chiarelli, who last ran for mayor in 2006, and Catherine McKinney, councillor for Somerset Ward. So we'll catch up with Mayor Jim Watson after this. This is Derek Fage filling in for Rob Snow. You're watching on Rogers TV and listening on City News.
Are you for or against us? We are trying to get somewhere. Looking around for a helping hand. We're doing our best to keep it steady, stop it falling down around us. Armed around each other's shoulders, we go everywhere. Are you in? Are you out? Are you in? Are you out? Are you in? Are you out? Do you care to dance about and shout? John Jack and the boys being a band on a one-night stand. We'll be dancing in the floodlight. Second to none, not even on a bad night. We'll be dancing in the floodlight. Second to none, not even on a bad night. We'll succeed where others failed and stay together many years and watch us take the world by storm. Are you in? Are you out? Do you care to dance about and shout? Don Jack and the boys being a band on a one-night stand. We'll be dancing in the floodlight. Second to none, not even on a bad night. We'll be dancing in the floodlight. Second to none, not even on a bad night. Are you for or against us? We are trying to get somewhere. Looking around for a helping hand. We're doing our best to keep it steady. Stop it falling down around us. Arms around each other's shoulders, we go everywhere. Are you in? Are you out? Are you in? Are you out? Are you in? Are you out? Do you care to dance about and shout? John Jack and the boys being a band on a one-night stand.
Rob Snow Show returns
on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
I am not that Ottawa icon. I am Derek Fage, filling in for Rob Snow. Lots to talk about in this next segment because Mayor Jim Watson joins us here on the show. Mayor Watson, how are you this morning? Mayor Watson, are you there?
Mayor Watson just coming on the line in 1 second.
Okay, thank you. That must be Patrick. Patrick's getting him set over there. No problem. Lots to talk about with Mayor Jim Watson. As I mentioned, the construction strike and how it's affecting and impacting municipal builds. We've got the Ottawa Hospital fundraising, which boy, oh boy, did we get some calls yesterday on that. Not a lot of people excited about the idea we may have to contribute a further $150 million towards this when we already are looking at the campaign to Create Tomorrow, which has a goal of raising $500 million towards the $700 million that we're responsible for. The cost of that project in total, $2.8 billion. Ontario government covering 2.1. So, this community needs to come up with $700 million. So you've got the $500 announced by executive chair of the campaign. And, You also have the $150 million from the city, and then $50 million, by the way, expected to be covered by the hospital. We'll check back in here. Is Mayor Watson there? No, we're still waiting on him. All right. Transit's another one, because yesterday we spoke to...
Hi there, Derek.
There you are. How are you, Mayor Watson?
Good. Sorry about the delay.
That's okay. I know, sometimes I understand that the job of being mayor is fairly busy.
Yeah, happy Tulip Festival to you and your listeners.
Yes, thank you. As a matter of fact, my wife and I, we were down a little bit earlier on in the week to sort of beat the crowds before everything sort of started up. And actually, there were quite a few people down there already. Some of the food trucks already down there and tents set up and exhibits. It looks wonderful. And a big year for the Tulip Festival as well, right?
It is. It's their 70th, and I'm very honored to be hosting Princess Marguerite in a couple of hours here at City Hall as we dedicate a park in her honor, and we have a lunch in her honor with some veterans and other people from the Tulip Festival. So it's a very exciting day here in the nation's capital.
I want to talk a little bit about the local construction strike with you off the top, Mayor Watson, impacting municipal builds. We just heard from Sean Mckinney, president of Ottawa and District Labor Council, and there's a number of different industry trades when it comes to construction that are on strike at the moment. Some saying they've never seen anything like it. What about the impact on municipal builds? Is there an impact?
There is. We know, for instance, the library is having some challenges. Obviously, the new central library. Also, there is potential for the LRT.
Of course.
Wait, Derek, can I just, I'm going to have to get back to you in about 2 minutes. Just going to deal with one other quick issue.
Okay, go ahead. All right. Hey, listen, live radio. This is what happens. The good thing is I'm used to it because I do a lot of live TV, hosting Daytime Ottawa on Rogers TV. So I was going to mention just before Mayor Watson came on, transit, the state of transit is always something that's front of mind for people here in Ottawa. The reliability is always a question. Yesterday, we had Clint Crabtree, president of Amalgamated Transit Union Local 279, on the show because there was an article, as a matter of fact, front page of the Ottawa Citizen, morale at an all-time low at OC Transpo because of what the union is saying, and of course employees are saying, OC Transpo's approach to complying with the labor code, which requires OC Transpo to provide a 30-minute break for every 5 consecutive hours at work. And I asked Clint at the time, it can be a hard sell, to get some sympathy from the citizens of Ottawa with, these are fairly well-paying jobs. And I know it's a difficult job. Somebody asked me yesterday after the show, well, would you take one of those jobs? They're looking at hiring 80 more people. Driving a bus, you may think, oh, well, you're just driving along. No, it's not an easy job. The other complaint they had, operators with 15 years of experience have been assigned weekend work, and he says that's not going over well. Labor code changes have been impacting OC Transpo. He explained for more than 2 years, and that's what is frustrating people the most. It's becoming an issue now because the federal government is starting to enforce, these break requirements. So that's one of the topics. And I should mention, by the way, that Mayor Watson, he is dealing with a bit of an emergency. So we may not get him back, but I can set up the talk back hour for you here, because it is the Friday free for all on the talk back hour. We do it each and every day, 10 to 11, where we open up the lines to you. So it's certainly your opportunity to call in, share your opinion, and what's different on Friday is we let you come up with the topics. Any topic you want to talk about, you just give us a call after the 10 o'clock news, 613-750-1310. Mayor Watson is back with us.
Yeah, sorry about that.
That's okay. I understand. I understand. Okay, let's move on to another topic. We talked about that. We got a lot of calls yesterday about the fact that the Ottawa Hospital has asked the City of Ottawa to contribute $150 million towards the construction of its new civic campus. Councillors they have voted I believe it was 15 to 8, to direct staff to come up with ways to fund that $150 million. Some callers understood that, we're going to have to pay for a certain amount. We've seen it happen in other districts, like Windsor and Vaughan, for instance, have had to contribute funding for hospital construction. For those that missed out on, what your opinion was on that, Mayor Watson, maybe you can just explain, how you feel about this $150 million and the fact that we may have to pay for it as a city.
Well, I very much support the new trauma center and the new civic hospital. As you know, Derek, anyone who's been around the civic in recent decades realizes it's not the most efficient model of healthcare. It's a hodgepodge of buildings that have been cobbled together. The building, the older part of the building is, I think, 100 years old. It's not the most efficient way to treat people who are in desperate need of serious medical help. And so many municipalities, the old Nepean, for instance, donated the money to the Queensway Carleton. What we've asked our staff to do is how can we be a good partner to see this project built so we don't lose out to some other municipality. And the last item we want to go to is to the property tax bill. So we've asked staff to come up with ways we can contribute that would not be a financial burden to taxpayers, but would also see us get shovels in the ground. So I'll give you a couple of examples.
Okay.
The old Riverside Hospital, as you know, on Riverside, it's no longer a full hospital. It's a series of clinics. There's a lot of land around that area. It's right on the transitway. And we own that site. The City of Ottawa owns that site. We lease it to the hospital, I think, for $1 a year.
Okay.
So we have air rights in that area that could, see either medical towers go up, doctors' offices, condominiums. That would bring in tens of millions of dollars, for instance, just that one property. We own the Civic Hospital site. It's another City of Ottawa asset. How do we use that site more efficiently to put more density in? How do we waive the building permits and development charges and future surpluses? Can we take some of the surpluses from the annual city budget or from hydro, for instance, and put that towards that contribution? So there's lots of creative ways that we can help the hospital. And I said to council, this is a test of our leadership. There are many, I think there's 10 other hospitals wanting to expand that have community support. And if we can't show we have community support or we're going to make up that shortfall, then we'll probably be bumped down on the list, which is the last thing we need. So I think there's some people in council still battling the old battle of they don't like where the location is. But the reality is that's
a done deal.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, there's no flip-flopping on that. It is what it is. And listen, I might not like it either, but it doesn't matter. I mean, we have to move on from that issue. I heard some of the frustration talking about that. Jan Harder in particular comes to mind. Quickly before I run out of time here, I wonder, what do you want to see happen with the Senators? There's a lot of question marks, no doubt. I mean, let's just use hypothetically here. What would we like to see? There's no doubt about, LeBreton Flats and this team. People are excited, but there's concern because there's so many unanswered questions now with the passing of Eugene Melnyk.
Yeah, first and foremost, I think I think there's probably close to unanimity that the site of a future arena should be in the downtown core, very closely connected to transit. We have two stations, Pimsey and Bayview, that would bring people down from either the East End, West End, or South End to LeBreton Flats, so they could maybe go in on Sparks Street, have dinner, hop on the train at Sparks, go down to LeBreton or to Pimsey, get off, go to see the game, then come back, get their car from their underground parking garage because they've been working all day in one of the office towers, or take the train directly back home.
Right.
So, every single successful franchise in any sport has their facility in the downtown core connected to transit. So, look at a lot of changes are going to happen, obviously, with Mr. Melnyk's passing, but I believe that there's still an opportunity to have that facility there, but it's going to require the NHL and the team itself to saying, yes, let's go and put in a proposal.
And you haven't heard from the board of directors or, obviously Melnyk's family members or anything, that there has not been any follow-up conversation about the team moving down, looking at a downtown location.
No, like you, I've heard lots of rumors and seen lots of rumors, but nothing firm at this point. But I can tell you, in my 2 or 3 meetings that I had with Gary Bettman over the last couple of years, he was the biggest booster of moving downtown because he saw the challenges that the Senators are facing. There's virtually no walk-up traffic at the CTC. No one lives within a reasonable walking distance, whereas you look at LeBreton, there's, by the time it's built up, even just in the LeBreton area and that part of Dalhousie, you're going to have 30 or 40,000 people, not to mention people in Centertown, and how much more connected it will be to the Gatineau fans to come over the bridge.
Oh, yeah.
Especially when they get their tramway built. So everything points to LeBreton, and, I don't support putting tax dollars into it. It has to be done by the private sector.
Okay.
But, the team has got a good value, and I think, we're proud, obviously, to have the team here. We don't want to risk it, but I think they need that walk-up traffic to make themselves more sustainable.
Excellent. Mayor Watson, really appreciate the time today. Thank you so much. I know how you're incredibly busy. So
we've got a jam-packed day today. But
all right.
Happy Tulip Festival, and nice chatting with you, Derek.
Yeah, same to you, Jim. Thanks so much. Bye-bye now. That's Mayor Jim Watson. Don't go anywhere. Coming up after the break, it's Friday Free for All. 613-750-1310. You pick the topic. You name the topic. We'll talk about anything. Almost anything. So give Alex a call after the news. 613-750-1310. I'm Derek Fage filling in for Rob Snow right here on City News.
Number one for local news in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Friday, May 13th. Good morning. I'm Andrew Boyle. Right now in Ottawa, 23 degrees. In Smiths Falls, 24. Here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. It's day 10 on the provincial election campaign trail. City News reporter Richard Southern with the latest from the Liberal leader, Stephen Del Duca.
He was in Scarborough reiterating his pledge to bring back rent control to old properties in Ontario if elected. I asked Mr. Del Duca about a number of things. I asked him about stat holidays in Ontario. I don't know why that was top of mind today, but he actually, this was interesting. He said if he's elected, he will recognize Truth and Reconciliation Day as a provincial holiday. You may recall that Mr. Ford, the PC leader, didn't recognize that September Day as a provincial stat holiday in Ontario. Del Duca said he would. He was also asked about his thoughts about the debate that's coming up this Monday, and he talked about how PC leader Doug Ford is going to be allowed to have a binder with him with notes during that debate. Take a listen.
When a premier of this province needs to read a script repeatedly that others have written for him, when he's thinking about how he's governed and where he wants to take the province, and by the way, you know this, Doug Ford does this every day of the week. Reading someone else's words isn't something that speaks to me in a genuine way, and I don't believe the people of Ontario believe it does either.
We're going to hear from Mr. Ford momentarily. He is speaking in southwestern Ontario today, as is NDP leader Andrea Horwath. She'll be up soon. Mike Schreiner, the Green Party leader, is currently speaking in Guelph. Richard Southern, City News.
Now, also on the campaign trail, the Green Party announcement Richard mentioned is for the doubling of ODSP rates. Right now, that rate is $1,169 a month. Leader Mike Schreiner says people on that program have been severely affected by the pandemic. The doubling of the amount will ease the disgust he feels for people who are forced to live in what he terms legislated poverty. City News time, 10:05. Sunny and hot today and tomorrow. Showers or thunder showers Sunday into Monday. Right now, heading for a high of 32. It's 23 degrees in Ottawa, 24 in Smiths Falls. The OPP is investigating a fatal house fire. It happened overnight in Almont. Just after 9, police responded to a call along with firefighters in the town. One person and 2 dogs were found dead inside a severely damaged home. The identity of the person has not been released. The crime unit, along with the provincial fire marshal's office and the coroner, are all involved now in the investigation. OPP is asking if anyone has information about this fire to please contact them. And get ready for another price for gasoline to jump. It's expected to jump another 4 cents at midnight tonight, well over the $2 mark. I'm Andrew Boyle for News Anytime. Follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Talk back.
Hello. On the Rob Snow Show. The phone lines are open at 613-750-1310.
Now, the Rob Snow Show continues.
It is now time for the Friday free-for-all. That's right. It is time for the Talk Back Hour. Derek Fage here, filling in for Rob Snow. We do this each and every day, but it's special here on Fridays. Okay? It's special because we open the lines to you, and you get to choose the topic. 613-750-1310. Choose the topic. What can we talk about? You know, I'll throw it out there again. We had a lot of traction yesterday on this Ottawa hospital situation. They've asked the city of Ottawa to contribute $150 million. If you want to talk about that, you're more than welcome to. Had a great conversation with Randall Denley yesterday, talking about his latest article in the Ottawa Citizen. And he's saying that, you know, it's a dismal situation for Ottawa voters looking for a fresh start at City Hall after so many years of Mayor Jim Watson. He questions why being mayor of Ottawa seems to be such an unattractive to people, other than a few veteran politicians. I mean, who are we looking at right now? Bob Chiarelli, okay, who last ran for mayor in 2006, when he came in third, by the way, with just over 15% of the vote. And I'm not, listen, ageism isn't any part of what I'm saying here, but he is 80 years old. And he'll be 81 by the time the election. I know he still has a lot of energy, but we're looking at a lot of new, fresh faces as well around that city council table, right? We're going to see a lot of new, fresh faces. And, you know, when he speaks of Randall Denley talking about veteran politicians, then you have Catherine Mckinney, councillor for Somerset Ward, certainly up to date on current city business, as Randall describes it, but hasn't shown a lot of interest in the suburban or rural parts of the city. Maybe that will change. We'll see. And Diane Deans, who had mentioned she may jump in at some point, I'm thinking now may not decide to run. She's been relatively silent about running for mayor since the days of the occupation. And then we can talk about some of the announcements. NDP leader Andrea Horwath announced she's going to help seniors living at home for years longer by letting them defer property taxes, putting about $375 back in their pockets every month, and investing $1 billion to make sure home care is there to support them. Liberal leader Stephen Del Duca was in Scarborough, we just heard in our news, They're looking to bring back rent control for every building in Ontario, helping to protect. This is a quote from Stephen Del Duca, helping to protect the very people Doug Ford and his Conservatives have spent 4 years ignoring. Doug Ford announced that a re-elected PC government will remain relentlessly focused on securing more game-changing investments in electric vehicles, and I can go over some of those, but I see our lines are lighting up like crazy here. Well, let me head over, because it is the Talkback Hour, 613-750-1310. Let's head over to Darlene in Ottawa, who wants to talk about the Civic Hospital, the Civic Campus. Darlene, welcome. How are you this morning?
Good morning, Derek.
Good morning.
Yeah. Enough of the delays, enough of the, we'll do another study. This Civic Campus hospital is desperately needed.
Oh, it's going ahead, Darlene. I mean, they've already started the clearing, right? I mean, I don't think there's any doubt. I guess the worry is after the clearing's done, how soon will we get to construction if Ottawa doesn't, pony up this extra $150 million? Are you willing to see another tax levy on your property tax bill? I guess that's the question.
I think we are, but there are other ways. Like Carolyn Meehan had a great idea about a lottery. Lotteries always go, and she cleared it with, I think it's Munter.
Yeah, Alex Munter over at CHEO, that's right, because there was some question whether you can, whether they had some kind of specific exclusive rights, I guess I will call it, to run a lottery for that hospital. Good memory on that. And by the way, regardless of the $150 million, there's another $500 million in the campaign to create tomorrow, right? That goal is to raise $500 million as well. So that this is on top of that we have to raise.
Well, it can be done. It can be done because desperately needed. I don't think I'll ever forget one caller saying that the hospital should not be built. They lived in the area of the Civic Hospital, and because it would spoil their view. I'm sorry, people with cancer not getting treatment.
I understand where you're coming from.
It takes priority. It makes me sick. No more delays. Delays equal higher costs, and this is something that's needed. Look at what is not needed.
Yeah, very well said, Darlene. Thanks so much for your call. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Derek.
Yeah, you're very welcome. And you know what? We can honestly. Am I happy with the location? I am not happy with the location. Do I understand why it's not at Tunney's Pasture? I do. I certainly understand. I don't have to go over that again with you, the listener. You've been listening to the news. You've heard the reasons why not. That original location just across the street got canceled for political reasons, which is a shame. I think that was sort of the natural spot for it, but. Here we are now. So the complaining about the location, I think, let's just put that aside, okay? Put that aside for the time being. Hey, we've got one line. Oh, no, we got all the lines filled up here. So let me head over to Hugo in Westboro. Wants to talk about the provincial election debate format. I imagine you're talking about this upcoming debate on Monday evening, Hugo.
No, I'm actually talking about our local candidate debate.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I like to be an informed citizen. I like to show up and ask some fairly tough questions of the candidates. And
right.
So I looked. I started looking for debates. I found one across with the Carleton Community Association, and debate format was very much like the last federal election. And it essentially limited to 500 participants on Zoom. And it stated that the questions had to be submitted beforehand, and that participants could not ask questions directly for security reasons, whatever that meant.
Okay.
And it was also moderated by a CBC hack. And so you've got...
Nobody likes the moderators ever, Hugo, honestly. Nobody does. Nobody does.
Well, the moderators are basically... just not very useful when it's a public debate, because when people are able to gather, they essentially run that debate. It's fundamentally a job interview, and the questions that are asked are not moderated. And I think that's just a real erosion of the confidence that people have in the electoral process, because we're encouraged to vote, but don't ask, right? Vote, but don't ask the questions that matter to you.
Yeah, I guess. So are you suggesting then, Hugo, when it comes to a debate, just to open it up to the floor for the public to ask the questions? Is that your idea?
Well, I want to return to an in-person public assembly, yes.
Yeah, I think we'll get to that because I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to lie to you, Hugo. So I'm doing some work for Rogers TV on the Ontario provincial election, and we've had to change the format, partly due to the pandemic, partly due to some other reasons as well. And where we're not going to have the debate format that we normally would, that we would love to have. This is just different times, unfortunately. So we will be having, your usual, which I encourage you to look out for. So the usual opening statements, the 5 or 6 questions and closing statements. That's what we're going to allow for all the candidates in the various ridings here locally. So I hope that at least gives you something. But I do understand your frustration, Hugo, and where you're coming from. And moderators,
there's no public health requirement for something like that. And if we don't action that provincially, like if we don't have the candidates actually demand, hey, listen, we're not doing this on Zoom, we're going to do this live and in person, because it's a very organic process. When that happens, you get the feedback from the crowd to immediately tell you what are popular, what are unpopular ideas, and some challenging, unmoderated, unscreened, like the Carlington Association doesn't even tell you who ends up picking those questions, right?
Right.
And so it ends up being softball. So it's a readout of political platitudes. No hard questions are being asked. So that means then, with your logic, we're going to have to wait another 4 years until we get a real by the people for the people.
Not my logic, Hugo. I'm just telling you what the reality seems to be for this particular election. But I listen. I feel you. I understand your frustration. I have the same frustrations, Hugo.
Well,
I really respect your opinion.
Maybe the candidates themselves should be asking.
Well, maybe they should have, and maybe they should be having, in their ridings, they should have some public debate, that they just set up themselves. And, we've seen that in the past as well. You know what? Show up, ask your questions, and I'll answer as many as I can. Hugo, really appreciate the call. Thank you so much for calling, Hugo from Westboro there. No, he brings up some good points. Listen, we're frustrated. We want to have a voice. We want to ask our specific questions. I get it. Let's put some pressure on some of these candidates to do some local Q&As. Go to your local community center or your local church and have a gathering. And if you have to have capacity limits, okay, that's fine. But I get where he's coming from. Listen, we have one line available. We're going to take a break here. 613-750-1310. I see you all holding there. Roger, Chris, Ryan. I'll get to you after the break. This is Derek Fage filling in for Rob Snow right here on City News.
Is calling, change with warning. I won't win anything if I give everything.
I was so excited when I found out that I was given this grant to be able to make this concert, because I knew it was going to be the first opportunity that I was able to play these songs for others. This album was recorded really, truly in isolation. Like everybody else, we were locked down for a bit. So you're going to see, I think, the joy of playing live, of being together.
For me, as someone who owns a business in Ottawa that's directly working with music, I own a recording studio, it is important because it gives a sense of confidence in terms of having support from a lot of different places. We all know in Canada, there are all kinds of city, provincial, and federal people who provide funding for artists, and just seeing how invested Ottawa is and expanding the reputation of Ottawa as a music and entertainment city, running a business in that city, it makes you just feel better that someone's going to support you, help you, and have your back.
Well, firstly, I'm seeing friends that I haven't seen in 2 years, so that is kind of stabbing me in the heart a little bit, but I'm also just so happy to be able to make art with all of these friends again. And I've been treated like an absolute rock star from the moment I just kind of knocked on the door and said, hey, can I unload my gear? Everybody's so helpful, and you're just used to kind of dragging all your stuff around, and it's such a hard business to be in. So this is a dream come true for any local artist who gets to participate in a series like this.
Oh, I feel like I need to keep pinching myself. It's an amazing experience and opportunity for us, so thank you so much. It's been a long couple months. Our last show was in December. This is the first time we've actually been in the same room together since. So it's really an amazing opportunity for us and the beautiful theater, and to have Rogers here, and thank you, Oh Mike, and so it's a dream come true.
I'm here with one of my best friends, Alex, and we haven't performed in almost 2 years because of COVID, and it feels really good to be back on a big stage like Meridian, and I'm really honored that you guys invited me here today.
Having an organization that lets the artists do their thing with such a range of styles and influence, and to kind of have that ability to meet the public and to meet the people who would listen to them, can't be overstated. So super excited about it. I know a lot of musicians in town and a lot of music lovers in town who are really excited about it too. So I mean, it's an event of which there's talk, there's a lot of buzz around it, and I wouldn't be surprised if it goes on for a long time and does a lot of great things for local musicians and connecting them with the listeners that love them.
To talk back
on the Rob Snow Show.
Have your say and call now.
613-750-1310.
Welcome back to the Talk Back Hour here on the Rob Snow Show. Derek Fage filling in for Rob. 613-750-1310 is the number. Our lines are lighting up. I'm going to jump over to Chris from Blackburn Hamlet, who's been waiting patiently. Chris, you want to talk about the labor strike?
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of labor strikes, even though I was in the labor force for about 40 years.
Okay.
And I had to go on 1 or 2 strikes, and I didn't really enjoy it, but it's one of those things you have to do.
Right.
But when I'm looking at this article I pulled up from Global News, and it says, the Carpenters Union says it wants to see a fair deal for members because of the work they did during the pandemic. Well, pandemic or not, you were going to be working anyways. And then they say because of the spiraling cost of living increases, our union and members believe their wages now have to be increased. Well,
right.
Yeah, that makes sense in one way, but then on the other hand, when you get your wage increases, now that's going to be passed on to the consumer, and then
yeah, I hear you, Chris.
So it's just a spiraling catch-22 situation where every time one sector wants more, the other sector wants more, and then everybody else tries to leapfrog over everybody else. So that there's no winning in this.
No, I agree, Chris, because, the developers or, whoever they happen to be working for, they're not going to eat the costs of that. They're going to pass it along to you and I. So if it's a residential home, townhome, condo, detached home, whatever they happen to be building, yeah, we're going to pay more. There's no doubt. Just like fuel costs, right, affect the cost of our groceries. The local grocery store is not eating that cost. They're passing it along to you and I.
Right.
Yeah.
So during my career, I know I made less than maybe the average salary, maybe a little less than the average Canadian, but I've always found that it's not how much you make, it's how you spend and how you budget for yourself and how much you save. Because the more money you make, the more you tend to spend anyways. So. Yeah, no, Chris, I think we can do a better job budgeting. There's no, I'm not going to lecture people. You can spend your money any way you want, but sure. Those stats that we see consistently of the average Canadian spending $1.76 for every dollar that they make. Well, there's some personal responsibility to be had there. Right. And I think people should go into the trades. Oh, absolutely. We need more people in the trades, and the trades pay very well. Obviously, you're going to have a cost of living increase every few years. You can't just stay at the same salary forever. But when they say that their rationale is keeping up with the cost of living, well, you guys are just contributed to the cost of living now. No, a good point, Chris. Really appreciate the perspective there. Thanks so much for joining us here. Let's head over to Roger in Drummond Township. Speaking of cost of living, that's exactly what Roger wants to talk about. Good morning, Roger.
Derek, first and foremost, you're doing a bang-up job as usual.
Oh, thanks, Roger. Appreciate it.
Now, I want to talk about inflation, but I want to talk about two parallels when it comes to governance in this country. And let's start with the Ontario Conservatives.
Okay.
Now, I heard a lot of chirping there about, Doug Ford promised cheaper hydro rates and he didn't come through. Well, I'm going to tell you the truth.
Okay.
When between the Wind and Dalton McGuinty, we use about 700 kilowatt hours a month, which isn't very much, for a house and my garage, okay? Because we're very diligent. Everything's energy efficient, okay?
Okay.
We use propane to heat, okay?
Gotcha.
So since Ford's been in power, before Ford came to power, say an average bill in January, February for us was about $280 for 650 to 700 kilowatt hours, okay?
Okay.
Well, now the same energy is costing us about $120 to $130 in those same months. So our energy bill is about half of what it used to be. Now, we're with Hydro One, so we do pay more than what the cities pay, like that. And so we've benefited from that since Ford's been in power. Number two, I got $310 back for my stickers, and because I did them for 2 years. And
I did the same. Yeah.
My birthday will be in October, so I'll have to get it again, But anyway, so that's in my pocket. And then we got a letter in the mail the other day, my wife and I, and here's a check for $400. Well, it was a deposit in our account for $410 to give us some money back on our property taxes.
Really?
Yeah.
On your property taxes.
Now,
well, that's municipal.
My
right?
wife and our total income is about $45,000. We're retired, and stuff.
Okay.
And, so there was another chunk of change, So when people talk
which is what people are looking for, Roger, right? I mean, real change. Well, I mean, the people want meaningful, when you talk about tax cuts, they want something that's meaningful. And I know, we have to pay for services and social programs and so forth. But, what I'm hearing from a lot of people, and I think one of the reasons why Doug Ford is polling so well is what you've just described. You got $310 back in your pocket. If you're making less than $50,000 a year, you're going to get, $300 off, your taxes, $300 back. So all of these little ones add up. Again, where we're going to get the money to pay for many of the programs, well, I understand that that's a big question, but people are really desperate for any money, right? For anything that helps their cost of living right now.
Okay, Derek, now I want to go to another parallel for another government. Well, let's call them the Trudeau government.
Okay.
Now, here we got a situation in this country. Now, we know what's going on in Ukraine, and that's certainly fed a lot of the inflation world around, okay? But in Canada, we had a made-in-Canada solution, and it's called taking our energy to market in our own country. So it goes from tidewater to tidewater. We have the refining capacity, and since Trudeau's been in power, we know what his agenda is. The same thing as the McGuinty win with this green program, and we know we have to do something with the carbon footprint.
Yeah.
But to make Canadians suffer the way people are suffering, I'm not saying we're suffering because we're still keeping our head above water, but everybody else, we're treading like everybody else. Okay.
Okay.
We've done everything right in life. We don't owe anybody any money. We didn't spend a cent we didn't have.
I hear you.
But anyways, there's a bottom line to everything, and you think, well, $45,000's not bad to live on, but we still pay some income tax on that too. But the fact is, everything is so expensive, and we shouldn't have to be suffering like this in Canada, because energy is the biggest situation right now as far as everything we consume.
Yeah, I mean, the transition that we have to make is inevitable, but I agree, Roger. We can't do it. We can't just flip the switch and say, okay, we're turning off all of that and we're going to all. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. The infrastructure isn't in place yet. We haven't been able to make the changes. We're forcing like car manufacturers to go, all electric. All these things are wonderful, but everything, all the infrastructure has to be there in order to do these changes, and the training into new jobs has to happen as well. And we haven't seen enough of that. Roger, I gotta let you go. Really appreciate the call, though, Roger. Thanks so much for calling. I'll get to those other calls again. Our lines are lighting up today. 613-750-1310. We have one line available. Give us a call. It's the Friday free for all here on the Rob Snow Show. I'm Derek Fage. You're watching on Rogers TV and listening on City News.
Being a crossing guard works great as part of my schedule as a high school student because I still have time to do my tests and assignments while earning a little bit of cash on the side.
Working as a crossing guard fits into my current lifestyle because it gives me a lot of time during the day to pursue hobbies that I'm very interested in.
A friend of mine introduced me to this job. I didn't know it was actually a a paid job.
I always start my day. It's a very little, I guess, few months baby, and she always comes with her dad on her pram, and the smile she has, like, oh my God.
Well, I think the OSC is a very good employer. They show quite clearly that they care about you. They're very polite.
They really make you feel like you're part of a family.
It's fun. I really enjoy it.
Gets us out of the house, too.
Yeah.
In Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Friday, May 13th. Good morning. I'm Andrew Boyle. Right now in Ottawa, 26 degrees. In Smiths Falls, 25. Here's what's making news this hour. The Green Party says it will double the rate for ODSP from the current $1,169 a month. Leader Mike Schreiner says he is disgusted there are so many people living in what he calls legislated poverty in Ontario. NDP leader says she will introduce a program to allow seniors to defer some property tax, allowing them to stay in their homes longer. And also, Andrea Horvath says she would increase home services. Doug Ford says his PC party will continue investing in EV and its battery technology as a way forward economically in Ontario. Liberal leader Stephen Del Duca says his party will bring back rent control for all units, regardless of their age. Several agencies are investigating a fatal fire last night that happened in Almont. One person and two dogs died in a fire that completely destroyed a home. The fire broke out around 9 o'clock last night. The identity of the person who died has not been released. The Vatican says Pope Francis will stop in Alberta, Quebec, and Nunavut during a visit to Canada in late July. The capital cities, Edmonton, Quebec City, and Iqaluit, will act as bases for the trip from July 24th to the 29th. The visit follows the Pope's historic apology last month for the Roman Catholic Church's role in residential schools in our country. City News Time, 10:32. I'm Andrew Boyle. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Talk back.
Hello. On the Rob Snow Show. The phone lines are open at 613-750-1310.
Now, the Rob Snow Show continues.
Welcome back to the Rob Snow Show. Derek Fage here from Rogers TV, filling in for Rob. We're going to dive right in, jump right to our next caller because Ryan has been holding for a good 20 minutes here. Ryan from Ottawa, you want to talk about the labor strike, Ryan. Thanks for your patience, Ryan. Appreciate it.
Not a problem. Derek, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Not too bad, thanks. You guys have a lot of information and a lot of the right pieces on this show, so I'm privileged to kind of be a piece to allow to give my opinion.
Oh, thanks, Ryan. We appreciate it.
For sure, and this being said, I'm a young guy in this world, still trying to find my way in this world, and I do understand my opinions are pretty ignorant, so the information...
Well, then don't put yourself down yet. We haven't heard your opinions, Ryan.
Okay, that's fair, absolutely. But still, I just like to make sure we're all on the same page. I'm coming in with a neutral mind. So
okay.
With this labor strike and the mayor getting in and talking, this is heavily involved, I think, in a lot of our lives. A lot of us kind of deal with this bottom line and this labor pieces or labor people and this carpentry strike, but this has been going on for years. I mean, you hear ever since I've been in college, since I've graduated college, you hear teachers going on strike, you hear nurses going on strike, and this is our bottom line. This is our labor force.
Right.
It seems like our labor force is a little bit frustrated in this world. I don't know exactly why, whether it's too much going to the top or exactly what. But from my experience, even with being in the carpentry world, I've tried to push health and safety, and you try to push the right pieces to what your employers tell you. But there seems to be some sort of disconnect.
In what way, Ryan?
Like, let's say focus on HR, let's say focus on health and safety, and I'm going to start to push HR and push health and safety, but your management doesn't necessarily like you to push health and safety against them. They like you to follow their directions and help. They want you to comply, but they don't want you to step outside of their box and make sure that you comply with the codes and the bylaws.
Okay.
Like I grew up from school, my school, I did a lot of electrical code, a lot of mechanical code, a lot of Ontario building code, that type of thing. So I find our staples in reality are often focused on the people. Like, I do not doubt the mayor is doing his best to make the pieces work in Ottawa, because the mayor is a huge position. He's a filter for the private sector and the public sector.
Okay.
But he can't necessarily control all these pieces. Like, he's doing the best that he can, but our staples are focused on the mayor, his name. Why aren't they focused on the system that the mayor is trying to enforce, or the system he's trying to keep in place? Like HR itself. HR should be pushing HR stuff, and health and safety should be pushing health and safety stuff to make sure that they are all flowing smoothly in a business sector. And you can even see it in the carpenters union. These people are working their butts off trying to kind of make ends meet, but they seem to be burned themselves out.
And I think you're questioning leadership, because you've brought up the mayor and you've brought up HR and health and safety and that kind of thing, and so you're looking for direction from leadership and giving some praise to Jim Watson, because Jim, Mayor Watson gets criticized for being a bully and so forth, and
absolutely.
I guess part of the argument I would make is the job as mayor is to get people on board to your vision, and everybody around the table is an adult, and you have your vote means just as much as the mayor's vote. And yes, every single mayor and councillor that's come through the doors here in Ottawa, there is criticism to be had. There's no doubt about that. It's not an easy job. It's not an easy job whatsoever. But I mean, as a leader, those are the qualities you want. You want somebody to come in and show. And Jim, I think he's had his run. We see that in politics all the time, that people get their run, and regardless of how effective or not effective they are, some people just want change for the sake of change. Ryan, really appreciate the call. Thank you so much for calling in today. Let's head over. You're welcome. Let's head over to Rodney in Ottawa. He's got various issues he wants to talk about today on the show. Rodney, what do you want to start with here?
Oh, hey, just something that's been eating on my mind a little bit, which was the Rolling Thunder. But,
okay.
Hey, I also got a little 3-part toasty roasty for Rob.
Okay, a little toasty roasty. Okay.
Yeah, and you're just the person to do it with.
All right.
You'll be able to help me along with that very well.
Okay, we'll see about that.
Hey, the Rolling Thunder thing, what ended up happening is, I explained a little bit of information, and I was trying to think of a way that they could gain some respect. So I had to think of, in my teenage days over 50 years ago, doing the walkathon for Oxfam.
Okay.
Some of my donations for the 40 miles were as low as 1 cent. But that 40 cents could have fed a family in Africa in those days, maybe for a week.
Okay.
So it costs and I mentioned, it was costing a whole bunch for security.
Yeah.
So now we had a bit of a tag of $3 million. So invite them back. Yes, invite them to come back with a check for $3 million or more.
Invite the Rolling Thunder to come back with a check of $3 million to pay for the costs of security. Is that what you're proposing?
That or much more.
Okay.
I actually suggested that they started donating, to a charity.
Come back to the reality of this world, though, Rodney. I don't know where you find yourself right now, but that logically that is an impossibility, right?
Well, I think that is opposite to what their purpose was, but my original thought frame was to get them to walk from Coventry downtown so they could meet and greet all the people that they're going to donate that money to.
I see.
And this is going to be an important sort of comment.
Okay.
You know, I used to ride a bike. I've operated machinery, and I had to think of these guys are older. All that noise, even when you have earmuffs on, and when you ride a bike these days, you don't have earmuffs on. You have a stereo on that can be heard for a kilometer.
Right.
It gives you a lot of body fatigue. So I thought, out of respect for the bikers, it would be a little bit too much for them after coming and raising millions of dollars to donate to Ottawa to walk the last little bit.
I see.
You know?
Okay.
And that was a little
All right.
thought frame
Maybe some
of-
chair massages at some point, Rodney, to soothe their aching muscles.
It was more of a thought frame to reduce the amount of noise for downtown, so residents that were bothered by the noise before wouldn't feel bothered again.
Right, they get some compensation.
Yeah.
Okay, Rodney,
Hey, but
thanks.
the important roasty toasty stuff. Are you there?
Okay, quickly, Rodney.
Quickly is I heard it first on Rob's show, bee mites. And then the story broke, and it was buzzing across the airwaves and on the TVs. Rob broke the story. And
Rob makes the news. We know that, Rodney.
It was on the call-in. And then he did a rant, and it was to do with Heron Road. Well, I drove back on Heron Road. He was going west. I was going east.
Did you wave at each other?
No.
Okay.
Every time I was hitting potholes, I looked over, and the road going west was smooth.
Okay.
I gotta have to admit, every time I was going fast and not hitting potholes, I wasn't looking over at the other side of the road.
Okay, I'm happy to hear that, Rodney.
Now the most important part.
Last part
is going to be about 2 or 3 weeks ago. Rob gave a weather forecast, a long-range forecast for the month of May.
Okay.
And it wasn't going to get over 20 degrees.
Oh dear.
In the daytime.
Oh dear.
Until the end of May. And I thought, oh dear, Rob is doing so well doing the politics. Now he's doing a weather forecast. I think he's going to be running for election. He's only practicing to be a politician.
All right. Okay. Rodney, I got to let you go. Thanks for the call. Thank you for the call. Thanks very much. I'll pass this all along to Rob. I mean, he's going to be excited. Hey, you know what? That was one of the questions I threw out there is, who would you like to see running for mayor in the talkback hour? Maybe Rodney has just piqued Rob's interest of running for mayor. Rob, if you're home right now, I know you're not running for mayor, okay? If you're listening in, I know. All right, let's go to another caller here. Let's go to Bob in Gloucester. Bob, how are you this morning?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
I just wanted to, the other morning, we're talking about the efficiency with OC Transpo.
Yes.
The other morning, I was listening to you on the radio when you were filled in for Rob.
Yeah.
I live in the East End here, up at Bathgate. I think you know the area.
Yes.
By the French College. Anyways, crossing Ogilvy Road, 3 major articulated buses going up Bathgate, all the way up Bathgate, following each other. So I followed them.
Okay.
They went up Bathgate. They made a left-hand turn onto Nhl, which is where the French College is.
Yeah.
They picked nobody up or dropped nobody off. One guy did drop somebody off later on around the corner at the park. There's a park called Montfort Park.
Right.
The 3 buses proceeded up Dag 9 to Montreal Road. They then made a left-hand turn on Montreal Road. Now these are all following each other.
Okay. Okay.
2 went.
Well, were they active though? Were they on duty?
Yeah, they had drivers. They were active. They had their where they were going and so on and so forth.
Okay.
So 2 followed down. I followed them down Montreal Road. They went past the Parkway. 2 then turned on the Cummings Avenue. They made a left-hand turn on Cummings.
Okay.
The other bus went straight down Montreal Road. Now, my point is, why would 2 buses be following each other going down Cummings Avenue, or even following each other in the area where we are, when the French College is like it's almost empty?
Right. I wish I had an answer for you, Bob. I don't have it. Listen, I get your. By the way, good investigative reporting. I mean, you obviously did your due diligence and
well, the sad
knew
part,
exactly.
Eric, every time I see these buses now, all I hear is cha-ching, cha-ching, is money going down the drain.
Because of the lack of ridership. Declining ridership, yeah.
And too many buses out, even on the weekend. Last weekend on Ogilvy Road, 6 buses going east end to Beacon Hill. 6, around 6 o'clock at night. Who's riding the buses?
Well, I guess it's the chicken and the egg theory here too, Bob, because, the argument could be made, because I know that they're looking at actually hiring 80 new operators, right?
Why?
Well, I guess they're thinking, well, if we have more operators and more buses, it's going to bring up the reliability of them being on time, and therefore we'll get an increase in ridership. I mean, I'm just guessing. That's my best guess, Bob.
You call OC Transpo, and the convoluted answers that you get from them are unbelievable.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, it's just losing money. $18 million we lost in the last quarter, I understand.
Yeah, that is right.
$18 million. I mean, that comes from taxpayers, the only one paying for it.
Yeah, I know. It's frustrating. I get your frustration, Bob. Thanks so much. Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate it, Bob. Thanks for calling in. Before we go to a break, let's head over to Dennis in East Ottawa. City issues you'd like to talk about. Dennis, how are you today?
Not too bad, sir. Not too bad.
Excellent.
Okay, just a few points to make up. For the hospital, I don't believe we should make up that $150,000 or million.
Yeah, okay.
First off, Jim Watson's going to do it anyway.
No, hold on. I will defend Jim in this. This decision will go to next city council. So this decision is going to be left to next. Although that they did vote 15-8 in favor of directing staff to come up with ways to fund the $150 million.
He's going to go ahead and do it because he's already wasted $2 billion on the transit system. And next thing,
I guess you didn't hear me, Dennis. What I'm trying to say is that the decision on if the municipality should cover $150 billion will be left to the next city council. It won't be Watson that makes that decision. He won't be a part of it. Anyway, go on. You've got some other issues.
Yeah, and then Mr. Crabtree, when I heard him yesterday complaining about his drivers.
Yes.
They're making $25 to $35 an hour. I couldn't help but laugh. Like, you guys have got a job. Do your job and stop complaining.
I brought that up to Clint. I said, this is this is a tough sell for my listeners who are cost of living and trying to make ends meet, and you've got some well-paid jobs. I understand, we all need a break. I get it. We certainly all need a break. Anything else you wanted to?
5 hours, and then you take a 15-minute break.
Well, they actually, for every 5 hours, consecutive 5 hours of work, they have to provide a 30-minute break.
A 30-minute break?
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
Tell me a job where you take a 30-minute break every 5 hours.
Yeah, I mean, every industry is different.
8 hours, and she doesn't even get 2 15-minute breaks.
Right. I understand. Every industry can be different.
My wife works at the Hampton Inn.
Okay.
I go and sit and wait for her, and when they were having all the problems with the train, I used to see 20 or 30 buses parked over at the RGC park, and they were all empty.
Right.
And the driver's sitting around drinking Tim's coffee.
Okay.
And they're getting paid $25 to $35 an hour just sitting there drinking coffee.
Well, it could be their break. Dennis, appreciate the call. I got to take a break here. Thanks so much for calling in.
No problem, bud.
My pleasure. Yeah, Eddie, we will get to you shortly. We're going to take a break. We do have a few lines open for the first time. So if you've been dying to call in, 613-750-1310. 613-750-1310. It's a Friday free-for-all. Anything goes here on the show. I'm Derek Fage, filling in for Rob Snow right here on City News.
I'm Emily Bertrand, the owner of Royale Equestrian Center. This is Diamond. She's a 10-year-old thoroughbred. She used to be a racehorse and then made the transition to a riding horse. She loves jumping, and she's used for our more advanced students. So we started the farm 14 years ago with my mom and brother. My brother was actually driving by one day and saw the sign, and we applied. There were 60 applicants, and we got it. When we first started, there was not very much here, so our property's about 25 acres, and there was just this 100-year-old barn. And from there, we built onto it. We fixed up one stall at a time, one paddock at a time. We added one horse at a time, and slowly it built into what it is today. Every year, we're improving and trying to continue to build. And most recently, we added 2 shed row barns this year. I love horses. I've been obsessed with horses since I was a little girl. The first time I got to ride, I was 4 years old, and I just loved it. My mom thought it was going to be a phase, and that phase never ended. I kept riding all through high school, and then eventually, started Royale Equestrian Center. It was my dream to always own a farm and to build a place that I could share my passion for horses with others and do the same thing for the kids that the horses did for me. So I absolutely love it. It's a dream come true. COVID hit, that was challenging. I was pretty stressed, especially the first few months, trying to figure out how are we going to navigate all of this. Our business is based on people coming in. We don't make much revenue if there's nobody coming in to ride. So that was really challenging. And then the other aspect of it was how are we going to care for all these horses if we're fully shut down and there's no income coming in. So we worked really hard. Some of our team were so kind to actually just come in and volunteer and help us out. And we made through it. You know, we got through it. It's been hard and a lot of work, but it's also shown us how resilient we can be. So I'm happy with how we're coming out of COVID. Hopefully this is, you know, we're nearing the end of all the shutdowns, but we've, you know, survived it and now we're starting to thrive again, which is great. So we have a great team. We have about 14 coaches, and then we have all our regular barn staff. We have our maintenance manager and crew, and if it weren't for them, we wouldn't be able to do this. It takes a huge amount of people, and then we also have a volunteer program. The volunteer program, it helps with us, especially with our beginner program, so they help with tacking up the horses and caring for the horses when we're really busy, and then they also get to gain some work experience. We take co-op students on. We're quite a busy and vibrant place, and it takes a lot of people to make it work, even through to behind the scenes from our accountants, my family, who are always stepping in to help out. It takes a small village.
Have your say and call now.
613-750-1310.
That is the number, 613-750-1310. Our lines are lighting up on the Friday free-for-all today. This is Derek Fage from Rogers TV filling in for Rob. We're going to go right to the phone lines. Let's head over to Eddie in Rockland, who wants to talk about Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's Ukraine visit. Eddie, welcome to the show.
Yep. Good morning, Derek.
Good morning.
Yeah, I like your energy.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Appreciate it, Eddie.
You've done a great job filling in.
Thank you.
You know, with the price of inflation, gas, groceries, housing at home, here's our Prince Justin flies out to the Ukraine on our government carbon spewing jet all the way over there. And you know who's over there is his buddy Bono, and you know, and he brings along Chrystia Freeland and Melanie Jolie, and this could have been a bad episode of Three's Company. You know,
Eddie, but you have to be honest. If he doesn't go, he gets criticized. If he goes, he gets criticized.
But we have the we have the technology, Derek.
It's a different, but it's different. I'm not defending Justin Trudeau on many things. I think if you listen to this show and you've listened to me fill in for Rob, I'm not a big fan. I've been very disappointed in a lot of the things that he's done. Yeah, he opening the Canadian embassy was a big deal. Ukraine was quite upset at the fact that we were one of the, very few left that had not reopened our embassy in Kyiv. So that was, and you'd seen other dignitaries had gone as well. And again, I get what you're saying. I understand where you're coming from completely, Eddie, but I also think the criticism goes the other way as well.
Well, he just keeps on spending our tax money, and it's just he's never here. He's always flying off somewhere, and I'm just wondering, can he have just taken a photo of his Ukraine flag socks and sent it to Zelensky?
I don't think it has as much symbolism just taking a photo of the socks. Eddie, thanks. Listen, I get your point of view. I appreciate you calling in. Thanks for your perspective on that. As I said to Eddie, there's criticism on, if he goes, he gets criticized. If he doesn't go, he gets criticized. Regardless of how you feel about his politics, I think it's important, just as many other leaders of many other countries have gone to be there on the ground, in Ukraine. Let's head over to Vince in Nepean, who wants to talk about Pierre Poilievre. Vince, good morning.
Yeah, I got a warning for all those Pierre Poilievre lovers out there.
Okay.
This is one scary dude, I'm telling you.
Why do you believe that, Vince? What do you find scary about Peel? And listen, I've been honest on this show as well about the fact I'm not a fan. I don't think he's the right leader for the party, but I'd love to hear your opinion of why you think he's
very
scary.
Radical in his views. I mean, what did he come up with lately? Yesterday he came up with something that back in Canada should go to cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
I mean, what? He revels in being revolutionary and radical for some reason.
I don't understand the cryptocurrency thing. I don't see how that's going to give me back my life.
Well,
starting to use cryptocurrency.
So, I don't think you're going to hear the USA say they're going to go to cryptocurrency in their Fed.
I don't think it makes sense. And quite frankly, Vince, I think a lot of the demographic that he's speaking to, and this is not an insult, I don't even think they have a clue on what cryptocurrency is and how you mine it and how you use it and how you spend it. I really don't. The heck, I've done my own research. I'm still lost to a certain extent. Like who's using it to pay for honestly, I don't understand that. What else? Anything else that kind of stood out to you as far as, are you a conservative voter, Vince?
Well, I was many times.
Okay.
And I was also a financial supporter of the Conservative Party for quite a bit. And, and then he's talking about, the freedom, the talk, and he's talking about, and then he was supporting the truckers and people downtown getting, this is all wrong. This guy's all wrong.
You think it's a mistake? Yeah. Yeah,
he'd be the greatest mistake the Conservative Party could ever make.
Okay, who do you like out of all of those leadership candidates for the federal?
I have an opinion, everybody, but I like Charest moderation a lot more than some of the others.
Okay, appreciate the call, Vince. Thanks so much for calling in. I'm the people I've been talking to that vote Conservative, a lot of them feel the same way as Vince. Let's head over to Bruno in downtown Ottawa. Wants to just talk politics in general. Bruno, what's on your mind?
Hey, good morning, Derek. How's it going?
I'm doing really well. How about yourself?
Oh, enjoying the sunshine.
Oh, no kidding, eh? Beautiful weather. Boy, oh boy, we've been so fortunate. It's fantastic these days. What's on your mind about politics, Bruno?
Every time they speak into the House of Senate, one leader talks to the other leader, and they always ask a specific question, and they always dodge it. Like
I know.
Justin Trudeau, there's no law regarding that. People, they vote for these guys.
I know. I don't even know if you can put in a law that you have to answer directly to a question and a topic when it's asked. Listen, I can't even watch some of it anymore, Bruno. Question period is just turned into an absolute disaster. It's like it's. Every time I tune in, and I do, I think it's important to follow and see what's going on. I find that nothing gets accomplished, Bruno.
That's right. Like if anybody goes to court whatsoever, well, you have to tell the truth. You have to answer the question. Well, how come it doesn't work for these people? They're working for us. They're working for Canada, or they're working for the Ontario.
You know what I think it's turned... Sorry, go ahead, Bruno. Finish your thought.
They can't answer one specific question. Like Horvath, the 43,000, 47,000, whatever, she cannot answer that. Or Trudeau, or Charest, or anybody that did a mistake, like they say.
Right.
They can't even answer it. Well, they dodge it.
Yeah.
I don't understand. There should be a law. There should make something out of it. Like, they have to answer the question.
I wonder if they, I know there's the Speaker of the House, but I wonder if the Speaker needs to become more of a moderator and actually pushing the topic a little bit better. I don't know how to fix the problem, because you know what I think it's turned into, Bruno? It seems like everybody's campaigning all the time.
That's right.
Like it doesn't matter whether you've got another 4 years. Once you begin, you just campaign for the entire 4 years, and you accomplish, unfortunately, very little during that time, as far as many people are concerned. Bruno, I got to let you go because I want to get to one more caller here.
No problem. Have a great day, Derek. Thank you.
Thanks, you as well. Let's head over to Justin in Gloucester. Quickly, Justin, I'm running out of time here. You wanted to talk Rolling Thunder.
Just very quickly there, and actually, just to let you know, I'm pro what's that called? They're doing the trades there. They're doing their they're on strike. I'm an electrician. I'm pro-union, and I just want to say quickly, a lot of people out there do half the amount of work as a tradesman, and they get paid twice as much. But anyways, the Rolling Thunder, I was there with some of my Ukrainian friends. My girlfriend's Ukrainian. We had our Ukrainian flags. We had our poutine. I'm not a biker, and I'm not a trucker. But we were just there as far as Ukrainian freedom goes. But long story short, we saw some anti-protesters at the very end come in, and just to cause some unnecessary disturbance, they had themselves wrapped with Soviet Union flags. Now, all I want to know is, and I asked some police officers, if a Nazi flag and a Confederate flag is hate crime and hate symbolism, which I totally agree, how is a Soviet Union flag, which has been dead for 30, 40 years, and we know how evil the communists from Soviet Union were, how is that not seen as a hate crime and hate symbolism being flown in downtown Ottawa at a freedom rally, which was freedom for everybody? Freedom means a lot of things, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Justin, I wish I don't have an answer for it. Thanks for the call, Justin. We've run out of time, so I don't necessarily have an answer for you. That's the first I've heard of someone bringing along an old, I would imagine probably an old USSR flag from the sounds of it. I don't know. I don't have that answer for you. I guess they don't see it as you see it, Justin. But surprised to hear that we saw that there. All right, going to take a break here. We'll be back. We're going to lighten things up a bit. We're going to talk a little NHL hockey. The playoffs are underway. We got a few Game 7s coming up. This is Derek Fage filling in for Rob Snow. You're watching on Rogers TV and listening on City News.
Number one for local news in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Friday, May 13th. Good morning. I'm Andrew Boyle. Right now in Ottawa, 26 degrees, 25 in Smiths Falls. Here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. Day 10 on the provincial election campaign. City News reporter Richard Southern on where the leaders are.
They were spread out all over the place today. We had Del Duca in Scarborough, Ford in Windsor, NDP leader Andrea Horwath in Chatham-Kent. All of these leaders are getting ready for Monday's debate in Toronto. This is the big debate of the campaign. NDP leader Andrea Horwath speaking to its importance this morning.
What this debate is going to do is give folks a chance to really analyze, I guess, or hear from the leaders and hear about our plans.
Liberal leader Stephen Del Duca, speaking today in Scarborough, weighed in on the fact that candidates will be able to have a binder in front of them at the debate. PC leader Ford relied heavily on notes at the Northern Ontario debate.
Reading someone else's words isn't something that speaks to me in a genuine way.
As for PC leader Ford, he was campaigning again in NDP strongholds in the Windsor area today. He was asked if he can actually take some NDP seats in southwestern Ontario.
No disrespect to the NDP. I couldn't even tell you who the MPPs are because they never speak down there. They have no, Windsor has no voice down there.
So a confident-sounding Ford. The polls still have his PC party holding the lead by a couple of percentage points as we move into the weekend and gear up for Monday's big debate. Richard Southern, City News.
City News time, 11:03. Now your forecast with meteorologist Jill Taylor.
Well, another hot day for us, likely another record high, too. The high 32 degrees, feeling like 35 with the humidity. The record for a May the 13th is 28.2. Sun and clouds, southwest wind. Tonight, mainly clear and 16. And for the weekend, likely get into some scattered showers and thunderstorms, and will start to cool down. For today, the high 32.
Right now in Ottawa, 26. It's 25 degrees in Smiths Falls. City News time, 11:04. The OPP investigating a fatal house fire. It happened overnight in Almont just after 9 o'clock. Police responded to a call along with firefighters in that town. Now, one person and 2 dogs were found dead inside that severely fire-damaged home. The identity of the person has not been released. Crime Unit, along with Provincial Fire Marshal's Office and the coroner, are all involved in the investigation. But the OPP is asking anyone who has any information about this fire to contact them. The Ottawa Hospital has asked the city to contribute $150 million to a new civic campus. While the opinion on this is mixed among residents, Ottawa Mayor Jim Watson tells City News his government is looking at ways to ensure funding the project isn't a burden to Ottawa taxpayers.
There's lots of creative ways that we can help the hospital. And I said to council, this is a test of our leadership. You know, there are many, I think there's 10 other hospitals wanting to expand that have community support, and if we can't show we have community support or we're going to make up that shortfall, then we'll probably be bumped down on the list, which is the last thing we need.
Now, some of the partnerships being considered, according to Mayor Watson, using some of the city's assets like land provisions and fee waivers in order to support that project. I'm Andrew Boyle for News Anytime. Follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Strong voice.
Strong opinions.
The Rob Snow Show returns on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Welcome back to the Rob Snow Show. Derek Fage here from Rogers TV filling in for Rob. And did you watch that game last night? My goodness. Really a mirror image of the previous 4-3 win by the Leafs. This time, of course, the Bolts came out on top 4-3 instead of the Toronto Maple Leafs. And here to break down not only that, we'll talk some more playoffs, throw in some Ottawa Senators topics as well. I'm joined by Kyle Bukauskas, hockey reporter with Hockey Night in Canada and ringside host for Sportsnet. Welcome, Kyle. How you doing?
Hello, Derek. Happy, what day is it today? Friday. Happy Friday.
I think that happens to guys like yourself during the playoffs, right? It's just one day runs into the next. You have no idea what day it is.
I'm just lucky I wake up knowing which city I'm in. We were early in the first round, Derek.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, you got a long way to go. So, get your rest where you can, Kyle. Let's talk about that game last night. As I said, it was really a mirror image, right? You had Toronto down that 2-0 hole, and then came back with 3 in a row, only to see Tampa tie it up. And what did you make of last night's game?
Well, I mean, it's certainly in the immediate aftermath a backbreaker for Toronto, right? Like, think about externally, I mean, how much criticism there was on a guy like John Tavares. I mean, some of it warranted, some of it I think maybe a little unjust, but, the fact is, I maybe hadn't produced in the series as much as he would like. He had the really nice play to set up Morgan Riley in Game 5, but to get the 2 goals there late in the second period where it seemed like it may not have been Toronto's night, and all of a sudden they're leading going into the intermission, you think, well, maybe this is going to be different. But, these Lightnings are two-time defending Stanley Cup champions for a reason, and how many times, Derek, over their run has their power play come up in the critical moments for them. Maybe a little bit of controversy, at least on the first of the two penalties called in quick succession on Toronto, but that's kind of been the story of the series, right? Like there's been some ticky-tack stuff that's gone both ways, and so it just happened to go against Toronto in that moment, and for them to get the tying goal. And I thought Toronto, did a pretty good job shaking it off. I don't think they gave up a ton there in overtime, and the one chance that they did give up, it kind of sneaks through, and it looked like, Michael Bunting doing his best to keep the puck out at the line, and it ends up going off his stick and the wrong way into the net. And, Braden Point once again scoring a big goal for Tampa as he's come over the course of so many times over the course of his short career. I just think, there are two great teams that we're not ready to obviously have this series come to an end just yet. There's teams that were both full value for winning here last night, but it was Tampa, and so now we got to Game 7 tomorrow.
Yeah, what you're saying about the overtime. I watched the entire third period in overtime. Unfortunately, I was out earlier in the night, so I couldn't make it home until the third. But that overtime, I really thought the Leafs owned that overtime. I think they must have won 60%, if not more, of the face-offs. Tampa looked sloppy. They were doing a lot of just dumping it out, a lot of icing calls, and but that, I guess that sometimes that's hockey, Kyle. It doesn't matter, if you're the better team in that overtime period. Tampa's goaltender came up big in a couple of opportunities, and it comes back the other way, and here we are at Game 7. What could be more exciting?
Totally, and it's amazing to me that we're through 6 games here, and the Leafs have gotten to Andre Vasilevsky for at least 3 in all 6 of the games. Like I would not have that on my bingo card going into this thing, but good on him for getting to what's been the best playoff performer of the last 2 years. But you're right. Then he shuts the door when it matters most with their season on the line, right? Like Tampa hasn't had to face elimination a lot here the last little while, but they certainly didn't seem phased by the moment that's all there last night, and really neither did Toronto. I know they got down by a couple early, but they dug in and gave themselves a chance there at the end. So for all the talk about trying to exercise the demons for Toronto in 18 years without winning a series, all those ghosts are coming back with them here from Tampa today, and they'll be hovering over top the ice surface at Scotiabank Arena and over top of Jurassic Park there outside of Maple Leaf Square. It's going to be a hell of an atmosphere come Saturday night, right? Like this, the push for the dynasty come to an end tomorrow, or is it more playoff futility for Toronto? Right? Which one is it? It's going to be. It's going to be fascinating.
Well, we've got another Game 7 coming up. Well, 2 more Game 7s, right? Because a huge win for the Oilers last night, and with arguably the best player in the world, Connor McDavid, stepping up again, right, with a goal and a couple of assists there last night.
Right, and that's kind of it's nice, when we finish our work doing the Toronto game, to be able to get back and catch the remainder of the Oilers game throughout this first round here so far. I just thought, McDavid setting the tone the way he did, scoring early on in that first minute or so to get things going, give up the lead. But what a great time for Tyson Barrie to score his second career playoff goal there with just over 5 minutes remaining, and they managed to batten down the hatches. And Evander Kane, I don't know if it was again toying with the crowd saying we're going to Game 7, or I've got 7 goals in this series already. For all the controversy that Kane was, Edmonton signing him when they did midway through the year. He's been one of the best pickups of anyone the entire NHL season, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And he's continued to deliver for them. So I thought it was just a real back-breaking loss for them in Game 5 at home. So for them to gather themselves and to be much better on the road with, again, for all the talk of, they kind of, in a way, the Toronto Maple Leafs of the West, right? So much talent, some great stars, but haven't managed to get it all coming together come playoff time. And so certainly that was the conversation going into their game last night, and they managed to get it done. So they, like Toronto, worked all year to have home ice for a Game 7, and they get to put it to work Saturday night as well.
Yeah, and then a Game 7 with the Bruins. I think a lot of people over the years, a couple of years at least, few years, counting the Bruins out, right? An aging team, it's going to catch up to them eventually. And here they go and win one. And we also see Bruins and Carolina going to a Game 7 as well. I mean, it can't get much better than that. I mean, even tonight's games, right? You got 3-2 leads with all three, with possibilities of Game 7s as well. Could this opening round have gone any better for the NHL?
Probably not much, right? I mean,
right.
Yeah, you mentioned we've got 3 Game 7s already, and there's the possibility to have, 3 more here. It's really something the way it's kind of played out for all the blowouts that there have been, like individually in the game. And yet we're having so many series come right down to the wire here. So yeah, it's funny. I mean, you mentioned the Bruins, and thinking about writing them off over the years. That's the one thing I've learned recently is just do not count a team run by Patrice Bergeron and Brad Marchand and company. I just think they always find a way, and for all the talk, in Pittsburgh of kind of that last ride type feeling, not knowing what the future is of Evgeny Malkin and Chris Letang, amongst others. I really do wonder about the future of Patrice Bergeron past this year, and certainly that's got to be a motivating factor for them in there. I mean, they're not as deep of a team as the one that went to Game 7 of the Cup Final in 2019, but clearly up against the Carolina team that had their way with them all throughout the regular season and had their way with a lot of teams this year. They've gone, punch for punch, and now the question is, can they win one on the road? No team has been able to do that so far in that series, but it's a group that has the ability to navigate the tough waters of the Stanley Cup playoffs, because they've done it before, and can they bring along maybe the inexperienced guys on that roster that haven't been through it? Can they help them along enough to get over just the fears and the uncertainty that can come with a Game 7? It'll be fascinating to watch, because Rod Brind'Amour had his Hurricanes ready to go. That's turned out to be a really fantastic series as well.
Yeah, no, agreed. Well, you've been kind enough to agree to do a couple of these segments with us today. So we're going to take a break, because I want to get to a bit of Ottawa Senators talk here with you, Kyle. So we'll take a quick break, and we'll be back with you in just a moment. Speaking to Kyle Bukauskas, hockey reporter with the Hockey Night in Canada and ringside host for Sportsnet. We'll be back talking some Sens right after this. This is Derek Fage filling in on the Rob Snow Show right here on City News.
Riding requires attention and focus. No distractions, no moment of unawareness, because one brief moment can cost a lifetime of other moments. Everyone deserves to arrive home.
The Maritime provinces are home to some of the oldest settlements in Canadian history. But did you know that one of the first was actually started by black settlers? Take a minute to learn about the rise and untimely fall of Africville. Black people have lived in Nova Scotia since before the founding of Halifax in 1749, but it wasn't until after the American Revolution in the late 1700s and early 1800s that large groups of black settlers began to arrive in the province, many of whom were former slaves promised freedom and land in Nova Scotia. What they encountered when they arrived, however, was racist treatment by their white neighbors and government officials. This pushed many black people to build homes on the outskirts of town instead. But despite the area receiving little support from government officials and lacking necessities like functioning sewage systems, access to clean water, and proper garbage disposals, the tight-knit community persevered, and so Africville was born. For more than 150 years, the small community grew, expanding from just a few homes to a population of over 400 people. Everything changed, however, in 1964, when plans for a new bridge and the idea of urban renewal prompted the municipality to set its sights on Africville's land. Instead of investing in the community, officials approved a relocation program that promised free job training and employment assistance to help residents through relocation. But the reality wasn't so kind. Residents had their belongings moved in city dump trucks, and homes were demolished immediately after their owners left. Of the 400-plus people living in Africville, only 14 residents held clear legal titles to their land, so the rest were only given $500 with the promise of more social aid in the future. Not much else was actually done to support Africville and its residents until 2001, when a United Nations report called for reparations to be paid to the community. In 2010, Halifax Mayor Peter Kelly apologized for the atrocities against Africville as part of a $4.5 million compensation deal. In 2021, Councillor Lindell Smith put forward a 7-part motion to plan for the future of Africville alongside local organizations and the descendants of former residents. Today, there's a public park and museum where Africville once stood to teach visitors about the history of the land and its community. If you've never heard of Africville, you're not alone. The tragic story of this small Black community in Nova Scotia is not as well known as it should be.
The world is changing.
So keep up with Rob.
The Rob Snow Show returns on Rogers TV and City News, 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Welcome back to the Rob Snow Show. Derek Fage here filling in for Rob, and we continue our conversation with Kyle Bukauskas from Sportsnet. And Kyle, I want to turn my attention to the Ottawa Senators because there's some things to talk about. I mean, I'm not sure I've heard your perspective yet. I've been, trying to tune in as much as possible what, everybody's talking about. But the firing of Pierre Maguire, I don't think, maybe a bit of a surprise that it came, at this time, but not a surprise to most. So what did you think of the firing?
Yeah, it just seemed like the writing was on the wall, Derek, which is too bad. From my understanding, when this all first came down last July, it was, certainly it was what I was led to believe, and it certainly has been put out there, like a Eugene Melnyk-driven initiative to bring Pierre Maguire into the organization. And so, when Eugene passed away a little while ago here now, it felt like, Maguire's days were numbered. Like, I just think, for a general manager that, has missed the playoffs for 5 straight seasons, it's just a weird experiment. I got to be honest with you.
Yeah, I agree.
You think about when he was first introduced, right? And the question was asked, because of his background in television, was he going to be someone to be more of a spokesperson for the organization? The answer was absolutely. That's a big part of the role. After that first day, Derek, I can't remember one time that Pierre Maguire held an open, media availability with the Ottawa media. I believe he did a couple of different interviews, like local radio, I think, in Belleville, and maybe a podcast or two here and there.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of the general press conference, I don't remember one.
No, me neither.
That initial time. So I thought, okay, well, there's one big part of the role that ended up not being fulfilled. The VP of Player Development, I know the title is just a title, but what really was his role within the organization, I can't tell you. I do remember a time when, they had a brutal month of November, and there was a Wednesday game against Vancouver at the beginning of December, and in the morning skate there, usually there's just above the tunnel where the Senators walk out, there's an area in the 100 level where the Senators management will sit, right? The GM, assistant GM, members of the front office. And that morning, it was Pierre Maguire, everybody else, and then there was Pierre Dorion by himself, one section over, sitting alone. And
I remember that, yeah.
Right? It just spoke volumes, right? So, in terms of the relationship between the two Pierres, who really knows how good or not good it was, but the fact that, this run didn't even last a year, I think, tells you a lot about where the state of things were within the front office, and now with Eugene passing away, it really wasn't much of a surprise that Maguire was let go here.
Yeah, and it just seems like one of those Eugene Melnyk hirings that perhaps he didn't even speak much to Pierre Dorion about, which I guess it can be kind of typical with what Mr. Melnyk did over the years. Let's turn our attention to the draft. We all sat there waiting to see if the Sens would get some luck and move up at least to that second spot and fingers crossed up to that first spot, but they didn't. The good news is they didn't move down, however. Ottawa ends up with the 7th overall pick, and now, everyone's talking. Do they keep that pick? They'll probably get a decent player, or is that 7th overall pick, is it in play? What have you been hearing, Kyle?
Well, I just believe, like, again, until you know what the offer is, what the return will be, that ultimately dictates if you end up moving the pick or not. You know, I strongly believe, Derek, that over this summer, I mean, without doing anything that's too short-term focused, that can potentially negatively impact, you know, the future 4 or 5 years down the line, I think they've got to exercise every opportunity to give themselves a chance to get in the playoffs next season. And that involves, you know, moving the 7th overall pick this year because you believe you can get somebody back that can help you do that, then I think it's got to be done, right? You know, 5 years without the playoffs, and it was actually amazing to be realizing that that's the longest stretch in franchise history that they've gone without making the postseason, considering, you know, the way things started for this franchise when they first came back to Ottawa in 1992. So I think it's time. I think it's been enough of, you know, post-trade deadline, and this is great experience for our young guys just to, you know, try to win some games down the stretch here. And, you know, I've got a lot of time for DJ Smith and really do enjoy listening to him and the explanations he gives when he speaks to the media on a daily basis. So something I didn't agree with him on earlier this year when he said, you know, our guys know how to win now. I thought, well, I don't know how you can say that because they haven't won yet. Like, how do you know how to win if you haven't done it? Yeah. And so I think they need to be in a situation where they have a chance to do that. And with that, you know, you got to have a competent roster that you can legitimately see with postseason aspirations. And so I don't think, you know, DJ has had a roster to work with yet that has the capability of getting there. And so I think that has to be priority number one. And as I said, if that involves moving the 7th overall pick this year, then I think they got to look at every opportunity to do so.
And it'll be interesting, you know, the Claude Giroux, local boy, you know, as an unrestricted free agent, and we'll see at the end of the season what happens. But, you know, that watch will be on for all Sens fans, I think, until he makes a decision. I want to move to Montreal for a moment because, you know, I know you cover Montreal. You've been, you know, had a close relationship with the Montreal Canadiens over the years and covering them. They get the number 1 pick, and just imagine what that atmosphere is going to be like at the Bell Centre in Montreal for the draft with the storied Montreal Canadiens having the first overall pick, Kyle.
Yeah, it's going to be a scene, isn't it?
Oh.
I just think for as difficult of a season it's been there, obviously, for a whole host of reasons, and what a great, you know, feather in the cap for, you know, the new regime. You come in, Jeff Gordon, Kent Hughes and company, and now you've got a first overall pick to work with. I mean, that's just gravy, I think, at this stage. You go through the pain of just all the losing for the regular season, and, you know, it's not always guaranteed that that's kind of the payoff after dealing with all that hardship. But in this case, for Montreal, it is. And so, you know, whether they do end up picking Shane Wright, which I think it's like, I don't know if you caught some of his interviews the last few days here, Derek, but the fact that he says he thinks he deserves the first overall pick. Yeah. I like that.
Yeah, me too.
I don't have a problem with that at all. Like, you think you're the best player? Like, absolutely. You let us know.
And he hasn't presented it, Kyle, like some kind of cocky, brash guy. You know, he's really presented it as if, you know, no, I've worked really hard for this. I do think I'm the best player, and do I want to be picked first overall? Absolutely, I do. Right?
Of course, I'm totally with you there, Derek. So, I mean, I know, you know, maybe the year hasn't gone. I mean, the fact that Kingston's still going on the playoffs, we'll see how long of a run they end up going on, and perhaps that boosts his value a little bit there. But clearly, you know, the way things are going, and Sam Cosentino all year has had him pegged number 1 in his draft rankings. So I just think that's going to be a really neat moment, especially, you know, the last 2 years now of doing the draft virtually, to be able to have it back in an arena again, for it to come back to a place like Montreal and the Canadiens have the first overall pick for it. It's a perfect marriage of everything coming together for what should be a really exciting couple of days in La Belle Province in the summertime. So good on them, a nice little payoff for what's been a really challenging season. And you know, now of course, when you have the first overall pick, you got to make sure you pick the right guy. So that comes with the excitement and just the pressure with everything that goes with picking first overall.
Yeah, agreed. That house will be packed, and the fans will just be losing their minds. It'll be so much fun to watch. Kyle, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate all the time today.
Yeah, it's doubleheader. This was fun.
Yeah, no kidding. Absolutely. Yeah, and enjoy that Game 7. Boy, oh boy, you guys at Sportsnet are going to have a lot of fun covering that one. Enjoy every moment of it.
Will do. Appreciate it, Derek.
All right, take care. Ciao. That's Kyle Bukoska's hockey reporter at Hockey Night in Canada, rinkside host for Sportsnet. By the way, if you're looking at, following some of your Ottawa Senators, don't forget the IIHF World Championships are going on. So, Thomas Chabot named captain for Team Canada. Drake Batherson, a part of that team. Nick Holden, a part of that team as well. Ottawa coach DJ Smith, an assistant head coach on Claude Julien's staff. So there also are some Senators, and Timmy Stützle, right? Captain for Germany, playing in the IIHF World Championships as well. So, if you wanted to get a little bit more hockey, if you're looking for something else outside of some of these fantastic playoff matchups that we've seen so far, don't forget, again, we've got 3 Game 7s coming up Saturday night. You can catch all the action on Sportsnet, and then tonight, again, you've got all 3 of these matchups at 3-2. Calgary leading 3-2. You got the Panthers leading 3-2 and the Penguins leading 3-2. So some exciting playoff hockey happening on Sportsnet tonight. I got to let you go right now because the news is coming up next. Derek Fage here filling in for Rob Snow. We'll be right back right after this.
The Calgary Stampede is a world-renowned festival celebrating wrangling, bull riding, and everything cowboy. But did you know that many people credit its origins to a Black Canadian? Take a minute to meet John Ware. The word cowboy has racist roots. Before the American Civil War, white ranchers were called cowhands, but the enslaved black men and women working alongside them were actually referred to as cowboys to infantilize and disrespect black ranchers. The legend of cowboy John Ware is full of impressive feats and awe-inspiring skill, including the ability to train even the wildest broncos and easily hold a horse on its back. But the real story of John Ware is one that starts from more humble beginnings. Ware was born into slavery in the United States, gaining his freedom towards the end of the American Civil War in 1865. Ware's skills with cattle ranching developed as he traveled throughout the United States, eventually settling in a town southwest of present-day Calgary, Alberta, which made him one of the first black pioneers in the prairies. Over time, news of Ware and his amazing cowboy skills began to spread, and people came from across North America to witness his horsemanship and skills as a rancher. Eventually, Ware went on to own many of his own ranches. In 1892, he became the first man in Western Canada to earn the title of steer wrestler, and Ware's feats in local contests set the stage for the Calgary Stampede Rodeo we know today. In September of 1905, Ware was killed in a freak accident with his horse, and more than 10,000 mourners from across the region attended his funeral, making it one of the largest in Alberta history. Though his true story is difficult to separate from the legends around him, Ware's status as a respected forefather of cowboy skill continues to be celebrated today. Ware has dedicated monuments across Alberta, including several sites near his first ranch, a Calgary school in his namesake, and a building at the Southern Alberta Institute of Technology.
Number 1 for local news in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Friday, May 13th. Good morning, I'm Danielle Bain. Right now in Ottawa, it's 27 degrees, partly cloudy skies, and in Smiths Falls, it's 26. Here's what's making news this hour. It's day 10 on the provincial campaign trail, and the 4 major party leaders are out campaigning. The Ontario Liberal government is promising to reinstate rent control across the province. The NDPs are saying if elected, they will provide more of the support seniors need to stay in their homes longer. The Ontario PC Party is touting a plan to accelerate new electricity transmission lines to southwestern Ontario. And the Green Party says it will double the rates for Ontario disability support programs from the current $1,169 a month. The leaders will gather in Toronto on Monday for the biggest debate of the campaign. Mayor Jim Watson is chiming in on what it might look like for the city to come up with the $150 million requested by the Ottawa Hospital for the new civic campus. He says there are many different ways to come up with the money and says one of the options being considered is using some of the city's assets like land provision and fee waivers to support the project. The OPP is investigating a fatal house fire overnight in Almont. Just after 9 o'clock, police and firefighters responded to a call, but it was too late. One person and 2 dogs were found dead inside the severely damaged home. The identity of the person has not been released at this time. The OPP is asking anyone who has any information about the fire to contact them as soon as possible. City News Time, 11:32. I'm Danielle Bain. For News Anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Firm.
Fair.
Fun.
The Rob Snow Show returns
On Rogers TV and City News 101.1 FM.
and 1310 AM.
Firm, fair, fun. I like to think of myself as that, although I'm not Rob Snow. I am Derek Fage, filling in for Rob. Welcome back to the show. How about we turn our attention to politics? You know how much we love politics on this show. We love talking politics on this show. A lot of big announcements this morning. If you're just joining us right this minute, maybe you missed them in the news. NDP leader Andrea Horwath has announced she's going to help seniors live at home for years longer by letting them defer property taxes, putting about $375 back in their pockets every month, investing $1 billion to make sure home care is there to support them. Stephen Del Duca of the Liberals announced that an Ontario Liberal government will bring back rent control for every building in Ontario. Doug Ford making a number of different announcements. A re-elected PC government will remain relentlessly focused on securing more game-changing investments in electric vehicles and the batteries that power them. All the major parties making announcements today, and these announcements will continue. Well, we're going to break it down. I want to talk a little bit with our Queen's Park Week in Review guests. I am joined by Steve Clark, PC candidate for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, and Rideau Lakes. Good morning, Steve.
Hey, Derek. Thanks for having me on the show.
A pleasure. Great to have you here. John Vanthoff, NDP candidate for Temiskaming and Cochrane. Welcome to the show, John.
Good morning.
Good morning. And John Fraser, Liberal candidate for Ottawa South. Good morning, John. How are you today?
Great. How are you, Derek?
I'm doing well, thank you. I'm going to start with you, Steve. Doug Ford has really been relying on his budget as his campaign platform. Although he's made a couple of announcements, he's been staying away from taking questions. It looks like as much as possible. It appears to be his strategy as a campaigner. It doesn't seem to be affecting his popularity at the polls. Steve, what do you think about the strategy of your leader of the party so far?
Well, I think we should talk about exactly where the premier's been. Since the campaign started, he's been in front of the media out of those 10 days 8 times. No leaders out every day. The premier was the only leader out on last Sunday on Mother's Day. He's the only leader who spent 4 days in the north. He's out there every day speaking to Ontarians, as I am, knocking on doors. And plus, when he makes a campaign stop, he also talks to local media. But, I want to make sure we all remember that the premier was available every day during the pandemic at 1 o'clock to talk to Ontarians. He's one of the most transparent and accessible premiers in our province's history. And he's going to continue to talk to the people, as all of our candidates are.
John, we've talked about Premier Doug Ford and his strategies in the past. Let's talk about Stephen Del Duca's strategies, making a number of announcements. We've been very busy, a lot of expensive announcements. There's no doubt about that. We can walk through some of the promises that have been made by each party, but just your thoughts so far on how you feel your Liberal leader is doing in this election campain.
Well, Stephen's out there working hard, and he's available to the media for questions every day. I mean, it's one thing to be available to media and have them take your picture and listen to a speech. It's another thing to answer questions, and Stephen is out there every day. There are 124 ridings in Ontario, in 28 days. So it's a really busy time, and you need to get out there and talk to people about what's important to them and what you're going to try to do to address issues like affordability. How do we get our surgery backlog cleared up? How do we get our public transit systems up and going with Bucket Ride Transit? So I think he's out there working hard, running the kind of campaign we want to run.
John, I think it's fair to say that Andrea Horwath, this particular election is incredibly important for her as the leader. A lot of people, a lot of pundits, a lot of people that talk political strategy and that kind of thing think this is perhaps her swan song if things don't go well, John. And let's get your ideas on the report card so far with your leader.
Yeah, I would say Andrea is the most experienced leader of the three. I think experience matters. It's showing up in the campaign. I would just like to counter Steve for one.
Okay.
At the Northern Ontario debate, all the national press was there, and the only leadership candidate to not take questions was the Conservative Party leader. So I think people in Northern Ontario don't think that all leaders were open and accountable. I do agree. All leaders are working hard. I don't know a politician of any stripe who doesn't work hard in a campaign. And on another issue, so I have 5 debates in my riding, and it's questionable whether the Conservative candidate, who is my main competitor, is going to show up at any of them. And
really,
when you have chambers of commerce who organize these debates, and who it's really important in small communities, and when you have one of the main, in case of the Temiskaming Shores, neither the Liberals or the Conservatives showed up, you kind of wonder how accountable they really want to be.
Steve, do you want to speak on that?
Well, on the north, again, the Premier was the only leader who's been up there 4 days. We're out every day knocking on doors. I can't speak to other ridings. I know I've got some all candidates meetings next week, but I, like other Conservatives, are making sure we connect with voters, and I know all of my colleagues are out working hard to make sure that our message is a very positive one. The Premier has talked about our plan to rebuild Ontario, and we've got the strongest annual pace of job growth on record because of our plan. So we want to talk about that plan. It's a good one, and it's one that resonates with Ontarians.
Let's talk about. I want to talk about the biggest issue on every voter's mind, and I don't think there's any argument to this, and that is the cost of living. And John, I'll throw this over to you. What announcement deals? What announcements or announcement deals with that specifically? Right? People are looking at. I can't afford to live. Anymore in the way that I'm accustomed to, whether that's affordable housing or groceries. People are looking for significant announcements that deal with that with the cost of living. John, what would you say are the announcements that will make a difference in people's pocketbooks?
Hey, which John?
Oh, sorry, John Fraser. My apologies. Thank you, guys. My apologies.
It happens to us all the time. People get us mixed up. Look, I think if you take a look at, for instance, what we've put out today, which is going back to real rent control, and in this province, that's a housing and addressing that issue. And as Steve would know, is a very important thing in people's lives. People need a place, safe, affordable place to live. Take a look at Bucket Ride Transit. For the next 18 months, that's going to help get our transit systems up and going and save people, in some cases, hundreds and hundreds of dollars a month. We are going to remove the provincial portion of the HST from prepared meals under $20. That's a daily thing. That helps. But there's more that...
It's curious, though, John. Sorry, just to interrupt quickly. It's curious that it's prepared meals. I've heard from people and people that have called into the show. Well, prepared meals those are oftentimes meals that people that have the means to buy it because they are on the more expensive side. What about what about the basics?
Well, if you think about people who live on their own, it's often better for them to buy a meal that's prepared. Or a couple, it's often better for them to buy a meal that's prepared. So it's not necessarily true that it's It's a more affordable way for people to spend their income that they're going to spend on food. So it's what it does. It addresses people's daily. Many people have that expense. It's going to address that issue for them on a daily basis. Does it work for everybody? It's going to work for everybody, but it's going to work for a lot of people, and I think across a wider swath than one might think when you think about what's more affordable for a single person or a couple.
I'll head over to John Vanthof. John, big issue, as I said, cost of living. What announcement, as far as the NDP is concerned, deals with that specifically? Because a lot of people are asking themselves, where are the tax breaks here?
Yep. So the one rent control, we've been on record that we pushed in the legislature for rent control for a long time. I think one that's pretty emblematic is what we announced today. I knock on a lot of doors of seniors who own their own home, but who are on Canada pension, who worked their whole lives and being forced out of their own home because they can't pay property taxes. And so what we've announced is they have under our government, NDP government, they will have the ability to, we will pay the property tax. It's not a gift. Once the home is sold, that bill will come due, but they won't be forced out of their home because they quite frankly can't pay their property taxes. And that's a program that will keep a lot of people in their homes. Increased help with home care will also keep people in their homes. That's where people want to stay. And I have constituents in my riding who qualify for 20 hours of home care a week and haven't seen a home care provider in 2 years.
Right.
And things like that we have to fix. That will make a much smaller burden on the healthcare system as well, and long-term care as well, but will increase the quality of life exponentially, because I don't know anyone who, if you ask them where they want to spend the biggest proportion of their life, no one's going to say an institution. They're all going to say we want to spend it at home.
Yeah, I don't think anyone would disagree with that. That's for sure. Steve, what about yourself? What are the meaningful announcements that have been made by the PCs on helping reduce those everyday costs of living?
Yeah, we've got lots, and the Liberals and the Democrats haven't seen a tax or a toll that they didn't like, and we're trying to put more money back into people's pockets, whether it's the increase to the lift tax credit for low-income workers. It's an additional $300 on average. The sticker renewal and the renewal fees. This is something that Stephen Del Duca raised every year. Going to put another $120 a year per vehicle in Southern Ontario, $60 a year per vehicle in the North. We all know that the two other parties, Liberals and New Democrats, voted against our initiatives to cut skyrocketing gas prices by 5.7 cents a liter on July 1st. And then on the senior side, I'm really excited about the two tax credits that we're proposing. The Seniors Care at Home tax credit. This is for things like medical expenses, attended care, assisted devices up to $1,500. And the Seniors Home Safety tax credit, things like stair lifts, handrails, up to $2,500. And then our campaign promise from 2018, the free dental care for low-income seniors, that we didn't, not only did we implement it, but we expanded it. So we've got a lot of initiatives as a government that puts money back into people's pockets and helps seniors stay in their home longer.
I hear a lot of hemming.
Well, I just got to say, the gas tax promise was one that your premier made in 2018 when he was running. It never happened, and now he's promising it after this election. But here, bill number 4. So no, Steve, my turn. Just want to say, I know you're saying we never met a toll we didn't like, but here's the reality: you never met a big corporation that you didn't like, because the corporation that owns 407, who charges tolls to Ontarians, owed you $1 billion, owed Ontarians $1 billion, and your government forgave it. You just let them have it.
The premier would have done things differently, but listen, the facts are...
He had a chance. He didn't do it. He didn't do it. He let them have the money this year.
We took the tolls off.
Gentlemen, I appreciate the debate. I'm just gonna ask that we take a quick break here. We're going to be back with more Queen's Park in review here on the Rob Snow Show. I'm Derek Fage filling in for Rob Snow. We'll be back with more right after this.
That same old train that brought
brought me here is gonna carry me away again.
He's a pillar of community opinion.
The Rob Snow Show returns
on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM
and 1310 AM.
Welcome back to the show. Derek Fage here filling in for Rob Snow. It is our second segment here on the Queen's Park Week in Review, and joining us, John Van Thoff, NDP candidate for Temiskaming, Cochrane, John Fraser, Liberal candidate for Ottawa South, and Steve Clark, PC candidate for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, and Rideau Lakes. Gentlemen, thanks for sticking around with us. Let's move along here and start chatting a little bit about, the debate that we saw in Northern Ontario. A lot of different issues coming up. Not everything specific to Northern Ontario as well, and we've got a debate coming up on Monday. Steve, when we look at these debates, how important do you think this next debate is going to be? I mean, that first one, of course, focused on Northern Ontario. This one, I think, is going to focus more on the province in an entirety. How important is this for your party?
Well, no, I think the Premier really won the debate in Northern Ontario, and I think he's poised for another strong showing based on his reaction and our reaction with Ontarians. The message is simple. We're the only party that's going to get it done. We've got a plan to rebuild Ontario's economy. We're committed to building highways and key infrastructure. We're going to never stop working for workers, and some of the recent endorsements really show that. We just finished talking before the break about our plan to keep costs down. And I think one of the biggest things that resonates with people, certainly at the door in my riding, is the fact that we've got a plan to stay open. We know that we need to build upon some of the success that we've had in terms of job creation. The Premier talked about the fact that we're leading, in terms of a plan to bolster the automotive sector in terms of electric vehicles. And, even in my own riding, we've been able to, despite the pandemic, have some major job creation opportunities at things like Made in Ontario PPE at 3M, the fact that Greenfield Global produces hand sanitizer grade alcohol for not just Ontario but for Canada. And people still remember the fact that, the Liberals chased 300,000 manufacturing jobs. It wasn't that long ago when across the border in St. Lawrence County in New York, they were almost every month trying to attract businesses from my riding and along the St. Lawrence Seaway to go to the U.S. We've been able to stop that. We've been able to build economic opportunity. And as I talked about earlier, the fact that we've got the strongest annual pace of job growth on record, and we want to build upon that. But you can't chase away 300,000 jobs like the Liberals did. We've got a plan that's bolstering the economy, and that's what we're going to continue to build upon.
Thanks, Steve. I want to go over to John Vanthof because, John, there has to be, we have to be competitive, and governments, give incentives to bring jobs such as manufacturing jobs into the province, in not just Ontario, of course, across the country and worldwide. We do these sort of things. What's the proper balance, John Vanthof, of being able to do that and not losing jobs and creating jobs?
Now, of course, we need to be competitive with jurisdictions across the country. We also need to use our programming to be competitive. So we have public health benefits. We have a lot of advantages in Ontario that help companies. My riding as well depends on jobs, on exports. But there are a lot of people in this province right now who aren't benefiting from what's happening in the economy. The people who are waiting for years for mental health services, the people who are staying longer in ERs than ever, even when the Liberals had hallway healthcare, it hasn't gotten any better. The Conservatives want to build highways, but they seem to be ignoring a lot of the things that actually make it great to live in Ontario. And if you want to keep a sustainable economy and you want to keep people in your province, and I'll talk about my own riding, I need to keep people to come to my riding and stay in the riding. They need the services available that Ontario is known for. And I don't think the current government is doing that. There's a lot of things that need to be fixed. They've inherited a lot of problems from the former Liberal government, and I think it takes they need a new government to actually fix some of these problems.
Yeah, and John Fraser, he brings up some excellent points. Of course, those social services that we offer and programs, and so in this province are incredibly important and right across the country, which makes it obviously attractive. But the delicate balance of bringing down the cost of living and then making promises that we've seen the $10 billion to build and repair schools, and bringing in 10,000 more teachers, capping class. All of these things cost money. 100,000 healthcare workers, training 3,000 new mental health and addiction staff. So what is the balance between being able to improve all of those things and at the same time make sure that each individual can afford to actually live?
Well, yeah, I think that that's a really important point. That's why we address some of the affordability issues around things like rent control, affordable housing, taking the provincial portion of the HST off meals, Bucket Ride Transit. But at the same time, you also have to realize that there's a ledger sheet in people's lives, like how good is my kid's school? Is my child getting the best education possible? Is home care there when I need it so I can go to work and not worry about my mom or dad? So there's for instance, publicly funded healthcare gave us a great advantage in the auto sector for a very long time. Mm-hmm. Because that's how it was. I think it cost companies about $1,500 a year at one point. And so, there's creating a place where people can come and live, that the things in their life are balanced, and a lot of that's healthcare and education, also taking care of the environment, because that's important to people. They want to see that balance, because it makes it the kind of place where you want to live, where you can raise a family, where people can thrive. We should be aspiring to have the best schools. That's why we're not going to invest in a highway that's going to save people 30 seconds a day, and we'll take that money and put that into people's kids' schools.
Gentlemen, always appreciate you joining us here on the show. Thanks so much.
Thanks a lot.
All right.
Thanks, Derek.
All right, take care. And
Have a great day.
Thank you. You as well. Take care, and good luck to the three of you. That's Steve Clark, PC candidate for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, and Rideau Lakes. John Fraser, Liberal candidate for Ottawa South. John Van Thop, NDP candidate for Temiskaming and Cochrane. We'll be following all of this. Rob, by the way, Rob Snow, back on Monday. Of course, don't forget we have the Talk Back Hour. There'll be lots of announcements, I'm sure, to talk about over the weekend, because campaigning doesn't stop. Just because the weekend here doesn't mean the campaigning stop, and it certainly means that the news doesn't stop. So make sure you stay tuned here on City News. The Sam LaPrade Show coming up next with, of course, Sam LaPrade. She's back in the chair. Thanks so much for listening on City News and for watching on Rogers TV. I'll see you next time.
The Rob Snow Show.
Weekdays at 9 on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Number 1 for local news in Ottawa.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line. Email us or connect with us on social media.
There we go.
Hey, going back in, okay?